Chapter 1560. Even Mo Tianji, the master of calculation and manipulation, was at his wits' end. He waited in a daze for a while. He was at a loss of what to do. Then he finally returned to his room. He tossed and turned restlessly in bed for the entire night. He sighed repeatedly. He couldn't fall asleep. However, he didn't dare to release his divine sense to probe. That would be too despicable. After all, he would torment himself until his eyes turned blue. Bastard. He actually entered my sister's room right under my nose. My sister is the one who took the initiative. Mo Tianji felt his heart ache. He growled in a low voice, "This is too much." "Chuyang, what's the matter?" Mo Qingwu closed the door and asked. "Nothing, I just suddenly miss you. I really miss you." Chuyang said affectionately, "I want to hug you to sleep tonight." Mo Qingwu blushed and said angrily, "Haven't you hugged me before?" She actually didn't refuse. Chuyang smiled and took off his clothes very cleanly. He was about to crawl into the fragrant bed. "Go wash your feet first." Mo Qingwu growled, "It stinks. I just washed it the day before yesterday." "It stinks?" Chuyang said innocently. Under Mo Qingwu's hateful gaze, she used her fists and legs. Minister Chu was beaten out with a conflicted face. He held the snow, turned it into water, washed his feet, and sighed continuously. Even Chuyang himself didn't know what was going on. He was already a supreme martial artist and had cleansed his muscles and marrow countless times. Normally, this kind of thing that only the common people had should have left him long ago. His other brothers, including Dong Wuxiang, who couldn't tolerate the smell of feet in the past, didn't have this problem now. But himself, as long as he took off his shoes after exercising, the whole room would be filled with the smell of salted fish. He couldn't get rid of it no matter what. It was really strange. This doesn't make sense. Normally, it should disappear with a thought. But he couldn't get rid of this problem after 2 generations? It was fine if he stopped at the king level in his previous life, but now he was a supreme martial artist. Did he have to stink all the way to the heavenly imperial court? After rubbing the cold snow for a long time, Chuyang was finally allowed to enter the room. Mo Qingwu sniffed and confirmed that there was no longer any smell. Then she snorted in agreement. Chuyang's heart was filled with warmth. Thinking back to her previous life, she had to be checked every time she went to bed. She couldn't help but smile from the bottom of her heart. Mo Qingwu asked, "What are you laughing at? Are you thinking of something bad?" Chuyang held her in his arms and said softly, "How can there be so many bad things to think about? I was just thinking about the past. You also seem to care about this the most, huh?" Mo Qingwu's small face turned red as she said, "But it's really strange. Your feet. Why is he still like this even after reaching the Supreme Being realm?" Chuyang rubbed his nose and laughed dryly. "How would I know? The previous generation and the current generation are all like this. I don't know if the next generation will be like this. Junior? You don't have any proper manners. Quickly tell me why you're looking for me." Mo Qingwu leaned against the bedside. "You come in first, there's something good." Chuyang patted the half-empty quilt and said with a lewd smile, "Come in first and we'll talk. I really have something good for you." Bah. The color of Mo Qingwu's face was almost the same as the color of her dress. She pouted coquettishly, "Scoundrel." Just as she reached out to undo a button, she suddenly turned her head with a red face. "You turn your head first." Chuyang sighed deeply. "Even if you don't turn your head, what's there to look at? You're not even 15 yet. You're like a green bean sprout. You're full of ribs, neither protruding front nor back. There's nothing to look at. You'll look like it in a few years." Mo Qingwu was furious. She immediately pouted coquettishly. "I'm just like this. If you don't like me, just say it. You can hug someone else to sleep. It'll definitely be comfortable and nice to look at." Chuyang's mind raced. He knew that he had said the wrong thing and actually told the truth. He hurriedly apologized again and again, but Mo Qingwu's face was cold and she refused to let go. She was obviously in the right, which made Chuyang exclaim that this life was not the same as the previous one. Left with no choice, a certain king of hell could only take advantage of his encyclopedic knowledge. He told a few jokes in a row which made Mo Qingwu laugh through her tears. It wasn't that the jokes were funny, but that the jokes were really too old, and Minister Chu's serious expression was really scary. Also, the fact that the king of hell was willing to tell jokes showed that he was sincere. But Mo Qingwu insisted all along, "Hurry up and turn around. You're not allowed to look. You're not allowed to look at all." Chuyang played all kinds of tricks and used all his magic weapons before he finally achieved his goal. Naturally, he agreed unconditionally. He was forced to turn around. He heard a rustling sound beside him, and then, a warm and delicate body crawled under the covers. Chu Yang turned his head and looked at her with rapt attention. He saw that Mo Qingwu was wearing her underwear, and had buried her small head in the pillow. She refused to raise her head no matter what. "Beauty, hurry up and raise your head. Let me see. If I'm happy, I'll give you something good as a reward." Minister Chu chuckled and made a scoundrel's expression. "I don't care about your junk. I won't let you see." Mo Qingwu lowered her head. Her mouth was very stubborn, but her shy and pink face had already betrayed her. "If you don't care, then don't care. You won't let me see your face? Then I won't look at your face. I'll look at other places. There are many places to look. Here, here, and here." Scoundrel Chu's salty hand had already reached out like a poisonous snake. Mo Qingwu suddenly turned over. Her petite body had already curled up into a ball, resisting with all her might. Her little face had already become a big red cloth. It seemed that even her neck and ears had turned red. "You little girl, we're already an old married couple. Why are you still so shy?" Chu Yang laughed strangely and hugged her in his arms. Immediately he moaned and said, "So smooth, so smooth. How can it be so smooth? Bah, who's an old married couple with you? Shameless." Mo Qingwu bit his shoulder and said hatefully, "Let go." How could Chu Yang let go? Instead he pressed closer to her. At this point there was no distance between them. The two people's bare skin stuck to each other without any space between them. Mo Qingwu suddenly trembled intensely as if she had received an electric shock. Then she felt Chu Yang's hand moving down dishonestly. Finally it stopped at her perky buttocks. Mo Qingwu tried her best to moan. She wanted to resist, but Chu Yang had already stopped moving. Mo Qingwu's heart skipped a beat. She finally whispered to beg for mercy, "Chu Yang, it's not enough now. I will wait for a few more years." Chu Yang said, "Don't move." Mo Qingwu was shy and embarrassed. Her delicate hand stretched out and pinched him fiercely. Her heart was filled with endless apprehension. Could it be that he wants it now? However, a strange change suddenly occurred. Mo Qingwu suddenly felt an extremely pure life force slowly emanating from Chu Yang's body. Then it gradually diffused and shrouded her entire body in it. At this moment, Mo Qingwu only felt that her entire body was light and floating. It was as if she had ascended to the immortal realm, as if she was in a dream, as if she was drunk. It was as if he had suddenly escaped from the dirtiest air and entered a bright and beautiful garden in spring, enjoying the most delicious, cleanest, and refreshing taste. Yes, compared to this extremely fresh and natural life force, the air in the space just now was indeed as dirty as a sewer. The difference was like heaven and earth. There was no room for comparison. The next moment, an extremely huge and rich life force rushed directly from Chu Yang's body into her body. Mo Qingwu was surprised and didn't know why there was such a change. Then she heard Chu Yang say, "You silly little girl, do you really think I'm here to play tricks? Just now, when I said that I have something good for you, you didn't want it. Do you want it now? Why don't you quickly calm down and guide this life force into your meridians to improve your physique? What are you waiting for?" Then he patted Mo Qingwu's small and exquisite head as he said this. Then an extremely cool and mystical power seeped into her body. Mo Qingwu immediately felt her mind clear up. Then her mind turned at lightning speed. She immediately realized that Chu Yang must have obtained a great opportunity, and wanted to share it with her. She didn't dare to be negligent. She restrained all the distracting thoughts in her heart and focused on her dantian. She guided this purest life force into her meridians and slowly circulated it. Gradually she entered the state of forgetting everything around her, tribulation space. The seed of the tree of life that he had just obtained entered the Holy Spirit spring. As soon as the seed entered, almost at the same time, the originally calm spring water suddenly changed. It bubbled as if it was boiling. A large amount of thick mist, almost in a solid state, kept coming out. In the blink of an eye, it had completely covered the entire tribulation space. The sword spirit, who was soaking in the soul-quenching spring, woke up with a start. He saw this strange scene at a glance. He couldn't help but open his mouth wide and couldn't close it anymore. The spring water has changed. Is the seed of the tree of life in your hands? The sword spirit's expression was full of excitement and disbelief. Chu Yang's face was full of comfort. Yes. He was naturally greedily absorbing the life force that was being emitted. The 30,000 pores all over his body were about to open up. It seemed that even an immortal wouldn't be as happy as he was now. The transformation of the spring of life is almost equivalent to creating a world. The sword spirit sighed and said, under normal circumstances, when the spring of life is formed, the life aura that it emits due to the transformation will nourish the entire forest within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles around the spring. This is definitely a great waste. However, the life aura is too large and dissipates quickly. Thus, wastage is inevitable. Moreover, we can use this waste to create a suitable environment for the elves. Chapter 1561. There's nothing I can do about it. Please search on Baidu and read the latest chapters of popular novels first. The existence of the tribulation space is a big secret to me, and it's a secret that I can't share with anyone. Since Duke Yu needs the spring of life, and this matter is likely related to the 8th fragment of the tribulation sword, I can't not give it to him. Besides, based on our friendship, I will definitely help him. But it's not convenient for me to let him in, so I can only let the spring of life form here, and let everything happen by chance. This can be considered a coincidence of fate and people. The sword spirit nodded. You're right. Although the existence of the tribulation space isn't a big secret, the real function of the tribulation space is a secret that only the tribulation sword master is qualified to know. If an outsider knows about it, the consequences will be unimaginable, regardless of whether the outsider is trustworthy or not. At that time, I will use the spring of life to irrigate the city of elves and activate the moonlight of the celestial crystals to restore the eternal tree. After the eternal tree meets the conditions to awaken, it will secrete a new spring of elves and give Duke Yu an explanation. Chuyang frowned and said seriously. If that's the case, it'll definitely be much more effective than directly transferring the spring of life to him. If you really give him the formed spring of life, the city of elves won't open, and it'll take at least 10,000 years to restore the eternal ancient tree. The sword spirit chuckled. That's because it's absolutely impossible for Duke Yu to make the spring water pour out from the sky. He can only use the method of placing it on the ground and guiding it. He can't make the spring water pour out from the sky like you do. Chuyang thought for a while and immediately understood what the sword spirit meant. He couldn't help but smile. That's right. He thought, if this is done well, maybe I can extort Duke Yu again? However, Duke Yu deliberately let me squeeze him dry. He deliberately provided an opportunity, so I definitely won't take the initiative to do it. Chuyang knew that Duke Yu would definitely not go up to the Heavenly Imperial Court ever since Duke Yu had brought up the conditions that Chuyang had asked for. He had already chosen to stay in the Heaven Imperial Court. Chuyang only had deep blessings for Duke Yu's decision. While talking, the sword spirit frowned and said, "How's the change in Imo Qingwu's constitution? You have to be careful, don't ruin her foundation. Although life energy was a rare good thing in the world, if one ate too much of it there could be problems. It's the same principle as how ordinary people can't directly take 100-year-old ginseng. Once there's a situation where the body can't take the nourishment, there will be a big problem. It's best to nip it in the bud." Imo Qingwu was right beside Chuyang right now, but the little girl was practically naked right now. So, why would Chuyang let the sword spirit out to take a look? Wouldn't that be too much of a bastard? It didn't matter if the sword spirit was a man or not, or even if he wasn't human. He snorted, rolled his eyes and said, "I know what to do." The sword spirit smiled knowingly and said, "However, Imo Qingwu has a rare physique in the world. In this heavenly realm, her aptitude is definitely top-notch. Now that there's enough vitality, we can sort out the meridians in her body again. Then, I believe that even in the Heavenly Imperial Court, her aptitude can be considered top-notch. You can imagine how popular she will be if she goes up there." Popular? Chuyang frowned. What do you mean? Is it hard to understand? Imo Qingwu is very likely to transform into an immortal spiritual body because of your transformation this time. The sword spirit took a breath and said somewhat enviously, "Looking at the entire Heavenly Imperial Court, there are only a few immortal spiritual bodies that appear in millions of years. How rare do you think it is? For those old monsters who can't find a suitable disciple to inherit their mantle. Once they see it, their eyes will turn red. Maybe they will fight because of it." Actually, you only need to think about Ning Tianya and Buluqing that day to be able to deduce it. But I can say that if such a situation really happens, the intensity will be at least 10 times, hundreds of times more than that day, or even more exaggerated. This is definitely something that is very likely to happen. Immortal spiritual body? Chuyang said, "What exactly is an immortal spiritual body? What's so special about it?" The human body is divided into 2 elements and 5 elements. The 2 elements refer to the 2 extremes of heaven and earth, and the 5 elements are metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. An immortal spiritual body can be said to be the best physique in the human body. Coincidentally, Mo Qingwu's natural talent is water. This kind of extraordinary aptitude is very rare. After attaining the status, if one can cultivate with an immortal spiritual body, one can instantly break through to the heavenly rank. And both of them will improve greatly. If the immortal spiritual body is lucky enough to cultivate a powerful technique, it will be 10 times faster than the second-ranked netherworld spiritual body. Or even more. So, when the time comes, not only will she be an important target to be taken in as a disciple, she will also be the first target to be proposed to. The sword spirit smiled. By then, I believe that you will have many love rivals. Chu Yang didn't say anything. A certain king of hell didn't seem to be too worried about this. He was still very confident in himself. Mine is mine. Who can snatch it away? Are they tired of living? Because, as long as the immortal spiritual body grows up safely, it is certain that she will become an emperor-level figure. Who wouldn't want such a foundation or a wife? The sword spirit said almost word by word. For example, Master's Cultivation. Shueleihan? Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. You're saying that Qingwu can reach Shueleihan's level? The sword spirit was silent for a while. Then he said, Master doesn't have the immortal spiritual body either. Chu Yang said excitedly, You mean that Qingwu's future achievements will be higher than Shueleihan's? The sword spirit denied. I didn't say that. The sword spirit obviously held his old master in high esteem. Even if he had already agreed with Chu Yang's words, he would definitely not admit it verbally. But Chu Yang was already smiling proudly. He knew the sword spirit for a long time. How could he not know what the sword spirit was thinking? Oh right, what kind of physique do I have? Chu Yang asked rather complacently, How is it compared to Qingwu? More or less. At least it won't be too far off. The sword spirit's eyebrows twitched twice. The corners of his mouth also twitched a few times. The muscles on his face spasmed. He said, You? There's no comparison. Chu Yang said furiously, No comparison? How can there be no comparison? I've had a lot more fortuitous encounters than Qingwu. I've taken countless heavenly treasures and soaked in the soul-quenching spring every day. I also have countless rare medicines and this inexhaustible variety of miraculous spring water to drink at any time. How can there be no comparison? Is it me and Qingwu who can't be compared, or is it me and Qingwu who can't be compared? Qingwu only got one heavy pill in total. The amount of life energy she got once is much less than mine. Minister Chu was obviously very unconvinced. Actually, you belong to, how should I put it? The sword spirit scratched his head and said in a very human-like manner, To be honest, if you didn't have these fortuitous encounters, you'd actually have a trash physique, a very trash physique. But after you got it, it's also... Anyway, I don't really understand it. Trash physique? And a very trash physique? Chu Yang's complexion was as black as the bottom of a pot. Explain it to me clearly. Mo Qingwu was born with a pure water attribute physique. Moreover, the Mo clan's cultivation method itself is somewhat soft. Therefore, she didn't go in the wrong direction in building her foundation. Her foundation is extremely good. Later she had your heavy pill to change her physique. Then she had the help of the mysterious ice jade paste and the jade snow spirit ginseng. Coincidentally, these two spirit medicines are the purest water attribute. With this foundation, it is equivalent to pushing her to a higher level. Therefore, this foundation has been raised to a whole new level. In addition, Ning Tianye's method of teaching disciples can be said to be top-notch. He chose the most suitable martial arts for women to practice. Women are born with a soft nature. Softness is the water attribute. But she has taken another step forward. She has almost reached her limit. Today she had a lucky chance to get the nourishment of life energy. Water is the mother of all living things. It nourishes all living things. It's impossible to go any further. In addition, her previous and current lives have always been as soft as water. She is gentle and well-behaved. Moreover, her two lives have overlapped, and she has achieved the so-called repeated water body. It's more than twice as strong as an ordinary water attribute immortal physique. Such a fortuitous encounter has never been seen before. How can you compare with such a heavenly talent? Why should you compare with her? You're just lucky at best, the sword spirit said. Why can't I compare with her? I can't compare with her. My cultivation is far higher than hers. My foundation is also deeper than hers. Chu Yang was still very unconvinced. A sense of crisis had sprouted in his heart. It turns out that Qingwu is so awesome. If I can't keep up with her in the future, what can your cultivation prove at this moment? Mo Qingwu has a single attribute. But you have a mixture of attributes. The sword spirit shook his head and exclaimed, if an ordinary person's body contains 3 attributes, then it's already very unsuitable for cultivation. It belongs to the category of trash attributes. But you have all 5 elements. An ordinary person with all 5 elements is basically a waste. But not only do you have all 5 elements, but you also have 2 elements. You're absolutely the trash of trash. Chu Yang's face darkened. Say it clearly. How am I the trash of trash? Motherfucker, this is really preposterous. With a physique like yours, it has long been recognized that even if you work yourself to death, you'll never be able to reach the heavenly level. There's absolutely no more potential for further development. So, your physique is trash. That's what, the ultimate trash. The sword spirit was a little suspicious. He said with uncertainty, but, the 2 elements of heaven and earth, yin and yang, and the 5 elements in your body are unusually balanced. They're balanced to an unbelievable degree. So, I can't tell what's going on. Let's go up and let the Lord take a look. Anyway, in my opinion, you're just that. The sword spirit frowned. He was a little preoccupied. After recovering his memory, he really didn't expect that Chu Yang's physique would be so unexpected. Moreover, he couldn't come to a conclusion at the moment. Moreover, the sword spirit also believed that in the entire Heaven Imperial Court, there might not be many people who could come to a conclusion about Chu Yang's physique. Feeling groggy, he took the medicine and went to sleep first. I'll set a regular update for the midnight request for guaranteed monthly votes. I hope everyone can support it. Chapter 1562. I still don't understand. Shouldn't it be better to be more comprehensive? Chu Yang frowned. What kind of theory is this? Nonsense. For example, Gu Duxing specializes in the sword, and Dong Wushang specializes in the saber. Therefore, their progress will be faster than those who practice the saber and sword at the same time, and their power will also be stronger and purer than those people. On the other hand, if a person practices the saber, spear, sword, halberd, hatchet, hook, and trident at the same time, what will happen? The sword spirit said, and your body situation is like this. When you really break through to a new level, you need to progress in all 7 aspects at the same time. Only when all of them reach a certain level can you advance by 1 level. Just like studying. Others can pass after reading 1 book, but you need to read 7. The sword spirit said, do you still think you'll be faster than others? Chu Yang was stunned. Is that so? The sword spirit was also puzzled. I don't know either. Why is the last tribulation sword master so strange? Chu Yang asked carefully, how many people with a body constitution like mine are there in the Heaven Imperial Court? According to the records of the Heaven Imperial Court, 4 millions of years, Mo Qingwu's super genius body constitution has never appeared before? The sword spirit said uncertainly, your situation is as rare as Mo Qingwu's. Similarly, it has never appeared before in millions of years. A body constitution like yours that is so trashy that it makes people's hair stand on end has also never appeared before, right? That's more or less it. The sword spirit sighed. Chu Yang's temples were throbbing. He gritted his teeth and said, but how do you explain that my progress is extremely fast? I'm already at the peak of Supreme Martial Artist, and I'm about to break through to 7th Supreme Martial Artist. In the entire Heaven Imperial Court, who has progressed faster than me in the past 100,000 years? The sword spirit said disdainfully, what you said is the truth, but this truth has a premise. You said it yourself that the Heaven Imperial Court has the fastest progress, not the Heaven Imperial Court. When you go up, you'll know where the gap is. Then the sword spirit laughed. Swordmaster, what do you think? Are you disappointed? Chu Yang snorted and said, so what if my physique is trashy? I will still rush to the point where everyone will look up to me. Moreover, my physique may not be as bad as you say it is. Chu Yang had said this in a fit of pique. But neither he nor the sword spirit had realized what kind of physique this so-called trash physique that hadn't appeared in millions of years actually was. Since time immemorial, how could it be a small matter? However, this is a story for another time. Creased, right? The sword spirit shook his head. Not necessarily. It was too hard to say. The truth is right in front of you. Why are you doubting yourself? Do you even believe what you said? Chu Yang said angrily, how did I forget myself? Let me ask you, with my current level, what position can I reach in the Heaven Imperial Court? Black grade, high grade. The sword spirit said, not bad. I'll make do. What is the exact rank of the Heaven Imperial Court? Tell me clearly. Chu Yang was a man of few words. He gritted his teeth and asked. Black grade, spirit grade, human grade, earth grade, heaven grade, saint grade, heavenly human grade, saint grade. The sword spirit said, Master can be said to be at the saint grade now. What's above that? Chu Yang asked. I really don't know if it's above that. The sword spirit said, but the saints of the Heaven Imperial Court should have reached that unknown level. As for how strong they are, it's already beyond my understanding. So, my current level is only at the bottom of the Heaven Imperial Court. I'll make do. Jiang took a breath. He didn't know how to feel, so he said with a bitter smile. You can't say that you're at the bottom. That's too negative. The sword spirit said, in the Heaven Imperial Court, I vaguely heard that as long as you reach the black grade, you must enter the Heaven Imperial Court. But I don't know why, but it's different in this Heaven Imperial Court. You're already at the black grade high grade now. When you reach the peak of the supreme grade, which is the spirit grade low grade, you'll be qualified to ascend. I don't know what's going on. The sword spirit frowned. By right, if such a person stays in a world like the Heaven Imperial Court, he can already affect the balance of the world. Chu Yang's mind flashed. He said, you mean, it should be the black grade? Lower grade can enter the Heaven Imperial Court? No, it should be the black grade that can ascend. The sword spirit was also puzzled. In other words, the first grade supreme martial artist that you're talking about can no longer stay in the mortal world. It's beyond the standard of the world. Chu Yang breathed out a long sigh of relief. He was completely dumbfounded. It turned out that in other planes, a first-grade supreme martial artist could collapse the sky and break the void. But in the Heaven Imperial Court, one had to reach the peak of the supreme grade to be qualified to trigger celestial phenomena. Furthermore, it could stay there for tens of thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years. This was more than just breaking the balance. Chu Yang had thought about it before. With the cultivation level of moving mountains and filling seas, two supreme martial artists fighting each other with mountains. Obviously, it shouldn't exist in this world. Because such people had the ability to determine the rise and fall of the dynasties in the lower three heavens. They could do it with just one person's strength and absolute martial arts. So Chu Yang thought that it shouldn't be and was very abnormal. But it was just a thought. Now it had inadvertently confirmed this point. It should be. It shouldn't be. But it had appeared. It really existed. The sword spirit was obviously also troubled by this matter. Since you got the seventh fragment of the tribulation sword, I've recovered a lot of my memory. But when I think about these things, I still can't figure it out. Chu Yang nodded with a sullen face. Today's chat had obviously touched him a lot. He had already thought of another thing. He murmured, could it be, this Heaven Imperial Court is different from other places? The supreme place is called the Heaven Imperial Court. But here it's called the Heaven Imperial Court. It's almost the same name. The sword spirit was shocked. He was awakened by Chu Yang's words and couldn't help but fall into deep thought. This continent was actually unique and abnormal. What? Chu Yang was still in deep thought, but the sword spirit had already faintly formed a guess. It was just that he didn't dare to believe it. Could it be that the abnormality of this continent was because of the tribulation sword master and his tribulation? The two of them were deep in thought for a long, long time. Then Chu Yang suddenly regained his clarity. He found that the spring of life had begun to slowly calm down and finally stopped bubbling. As the spring of life calmed down, the originally dense aura of life in the air also scattered in all directions. It scattered on the purple crystal, scattered on the rare herbs, scattered on the large medicinal field that the sword spirit had painstakingly cultivated. All the plants and herbs with life, heavenly materials and earthly treasures, seemed to have a strange luster at this moment, flashing. At this moment, Chu Yang was no longer in the mood to look at the strange phenomenon in the tribulation space. He immediately regained his consciousness and looked at Mo Qingwu in his arms. He saw Mo Qingwu's fan-like eyelashes gently covering her eyes. Her breathing was light and rhythmic. Her little face was flushed, full of happiness and peace. He didn't know when she had actually fallen into a deep sleep. Her two tender lotus-like arms were still hugging Chu Yang's arm. It seemed that she could only be so happy and satisfied after having this support. At this moment, Mo Qingwu exuded an astonishing charm from head to toe. She was like a peerless famous flower with sparkling and translucent dewdrops hanging after the misty drizzle in the early morning. She was so beautiful that one couldn't bear to disturb her. It was as if taking a deep breath would destroy this natural beauty. Chu Yang couldn't help but stare in a daze. He suddenly remembered what the sword spirit had said. After going to the heavenly imperial court, your love rivals will be everywhere. Many, 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 many. He couldn't help but sneer. He thought to himself, even if my love rivals are everywhere, so what? But what do I, Chu Yang, have to fear? Jianghu is mine. She will always be mine. Even heaven and earth can't change this. Would I, king of Hell Chu, be afraid of a mere love rival? A huge amount of vital energy penetrated into Mo Qingwu's meridians. Chu Yang was pleasantly surprised to find that the meridians in Mo Qingwu's body had undergone a huge change again. Everywhere was full of vitality. That kind of extremely pure life force actually formed a perfect cycle in Mo Qingwu's body. All the meridians in her body showed a kind of sparkling luster, as if they were emitting the most brilliant light. Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief, and a completely relieved smile appeared on his face. It seemed that this little girl had indeed benefited a lot this time. As for himself, Chu Yang opened his inner vision and dismayed to find that his meridians were actually the same as before. One must know that the life energy had come from his own body. The amount of life energy he had obtained this time was far more than what Mo Qingwu had. But there was no change at all. Could it be that his physique was so weak? Chu Yang shook his head and thought to himself, everyone is indeed different. But he immediately threw this matter to the back of his mind. No matter what the sword spirit said, Chu Yang always firmly believed that his constitution was unique. Even if he was extremely useless as a peerless piece of trash that had never appeared in millions of years, since he appeared this time, he would definitely not be so mediocre. Otherwise, why would the tribulation sword favor me? Chu Yang's confidence had never wavered. The next morning, before the sky brightened, Mo Tianji was pacing back and forth in the courtyard, extremely anxious. By the time Chu Yang and Mo Qingwu went out, Mo Tianji had already paced back and forth 1,000 times. When he turned his head and saw the two coming out, he immediately rushed over. Then he made a sound of surprise and sized up the two of them with uncertainty. The more he looked at them, the more he felt that the two of them were completely different from yesterday. But what exactly was different he couldn't tell. It seemed that it was a kind of fundamental change. He had a cold. His head didn't hurt, but he was dizzy. His body was hot and cold at the same time. Taking medicine didn't have any effect, so he went for a bottle of water. Strange, halfway through the drip he felt relaxed. Chapter 1563. Second brother, what are you looking at so early in the morning? Mo Qingwu blushed, embarrassed by her second brother's stare. Thinking about how she spent the night with Chu Yang last night, she became extremely shy. Although they didn't do anything, she was still thin-skinned and couldn't help but grumble. Mo Qingji took a deep breath. Little sister, you seem different from yesterday, very different. Mo Qingji's concern came from the bottom of his heart, but Mo Qingwu misunderstood. She thought that Mo Qingji's words had a hidden meaning and was mocking her. Instantly, her brows furrowed and her eyes widened. She pursued Mo Qingji relentlessly. She beat him up all the way. The pitiful master of calamity, the master of calculation and manipulation, Mo Tianji's current cultivation was not as good as his younger sister's. So he was beaten to a pulp. This made Chu Yang, who was watching from the side, very happy. Especially when he saw that Mo Qingwu had twisted Mo Tianji's ears until they were bright red. Chu Yang took pleasure in Mo Tianji's misfortune and laughed. In the morning, after everyone had breakfast, the brothers bade farewell to the 3 Stars Divine Clan and prepared to head south to the City of Fairies. But when they were looking for Chu Le, Wan Renjia told them that Wu Jueqing had left this place silently with Chu Le last night. No one knew where they had gone. Chu Yang could only smile bitterly at Wu Jueqing's sudden departure. The brothers went on their way noisily. No one realized that the moment Mo Tianji knew that Wu Jueqing had left with Chu Le, bitterness was buried deep in his eyes. But the most depressing thing for Mo Tianji wasn't Chu Le's sudden departure. It seemed that Chu Le didn't completely leave without saying goodbye because, in Chu Le's room, she left a farewell note. Big brother, I'm leaving with my master. Take care, I will appear by your side at any time. Remember to think of me every day. Little sister Le. Holding this short farewell note in his hand, Chu Yang only had a faint smile on his face. But his heart was filled with endless warmth. Mo Qingji stuck his head out and looked around. He looked like he wanted to ask something but didn't dare to. His usual wisdom were all thrown out of the window. Seeing this, Chu Yang was secretly happy. He pretended to be indifferent and said, "It's a letter from Le." A trace of sincere desire flashed in the depths of Mo Tianji's eyes. He also pretended to be indifferent and said casually, "Is it a farewell letter?" Chu Yang nodded but didn't say anything. Mo Tianji didn't pursue the matter. He only said, "We should also be on our way." Seeing through Chu Yang's feigned indifference, Mo Tianji regained his usual wisdom and calmness. He had already concluded that the letter did not mention him, because if it did, Chu Yang would definitely say it. A certain king of hell would never let go of such a good opportunity to mock himself. Since Chu Yang didn't mention it, then Chu Lu definitely didn't mention her in the letter. This was a fact that could be easily deduced and could not be explained with words. Wan Renjia and the other two also bade farewell to Chu Yang in a timely manner. Knowing that Interrogation Officer 1 and the others had all gone to the southeast, they naturally wanted to reconcile with Interrogation Officer 1. The operation on Chu Yang's side was not something outsiders could interfere with, although they could no longer be considered outsiders. However, they were still not qualified to be involved in these core secret activities. Most importantly, their own strength was still relatively low, and it was difficult for them to be of help. It was better to go to the southeast. The three of us aren't strong enough right now, and it's difficult for us to be of help. Let's go to the southeast first. When the Qin clan is destroyed one day, no matter what, we will take action. However, the three of them had never forgotten the blood feud with Wei Wuyan. After leaving such a sentence, they disguised themselves and headed to the southeast. The three of them were all experienced martial artists. Going to the southeast stealthily, there was no need to worry about their safety. I will definitely go and find you. Amidst Tan Tan's loud shout, which was almost like an oath, Chu Yang and the rest of the group of 12 left the northwest like arrows. On the vast plain they headed to the south like lightning. When they passed by the battlefield, the 12 of them stopped for a moment. In just a short night, this place was once again covered in white snow. It had completely recovered the appearance it had before the great battle. The endless scorching sun and scorching heat from the day before had completely disappeared. The boundless wind and snow had already buried all traces of the battle. Everyone looked at this spotless snowfield in a trance. It was as if the screams of thousands of people were ringing in their ears again, and Li Chuanbua's indifferent but tired voice was ringing in their ears again. It was as if they could see the tragic heroic deeds of the Li clan's brothers dying together. Sighing softly, everyone bent down at the same time, and bowed towards this battlefield in unison. Farewell, Northwest land, land of wind and snow. The next moment, the 12 of them disappeared at the end of the world like wisps of green smoke in the blink of an eye. The great battle of the Northwest had ended, but the storm didn't stop. During this period of time, great waves were set off in the martial world again, and the momentum of this wave was even greater than before. The first matter was, of course, the matter of the true body of the Tribulation Sword Master finally appearing in the world. The identity of the Tribulation Sword Master was finally completely exposed, and it was the Tribulation Sword Master who took the initiative to reveal it. This matter caused an uproar in the martial world. The source of the Li clan's annihilation was largely because the Li clan had taken in Li Xiongtu, and Li Xiongtu was one of the tribulations acknowledged by the upper echelons of the clans. With Li Xiongtu in the Li clan, it was equivalent to confirming that the Li clan would not be annihilated and would even prosper for another 10,000 years. This was why the allied forces of the clans joined forces to annihilate the Li clan. In the end, it was still due to the legend of the tribulation that appeared once every 10,000 years. At this moment, the Tribulation Sword Master Chu Yang had appeared out of nowhere in a high-profile manner, bringing along his Tribulation brothers to show off their might in the northwest, and exchanging blows with the 8 super clans. This matter naturally became the most shocking matter at present. Following the emergence of this matter, many people also started to speculate and question some things in their hearts. Back then, the Dharma Supreme had said that Chu Yang was an extraterrestrial demon, and had called upon the whole world to encircle and annihilate him. But now, Chu Yang had transformed into the Tribulation Sword Master of this generation. How could the Tribulation Sword Master be an extraterrestrial demon? It was completely the opposite of what they were. Was the Dharma Supreme mistaken in this, or was there some other inside story? Slowly, this kind of rumor slowly spread. Many people were already suspecting the Dharma Supreme's intentions. For the first time in so many tens of thousands of years, the Dharma Supreme's prestige was being questioned. And this doubt was uncontrollable and was growing bigger and bigger. As for the second major matter that shook the martial world, it was naturally the 3 Stars Divine clan that had been silent for hundreds of thousands of years reappearing in the martial world. And the moment they reappeared, it was already confirmed that they were dominating the Northwest, and even forced the allied forces of the 8 super clans and law enforcement officers to retreat with just a few words. There were even rumors that the 3 Stars Divine clan was extremely arrogant. It was as if they had the intention of ruling over the whole of the upper 3 heavens. As for the third major matter, it was that, the Li clan, which was also a super clan and had been entrenched in the northwest for 10,000 years, was officially annihilated after the Lan clan. The first-generation ancestor of the Li clan, Li Chuanbua, was also not spared. His spirit was destroyed. He no longer existed in this world. This was the second super clan to be annihilated among the super clans. The chaos of the martial world had already begun, and a new round of reshuffling was slowly unfolding. The whole martial world was filled with fear and trepidation. On the day after Chu Yang and the others left the northwest, they received another shocking piece of news. This sudden news made Mo Tianji, who had always been calm, stumble and fall when he heard this piece of news. There was no other reason. This news was simply too shocking, so shocking that it was hard to believe. Chu Yang and the others' reactions were no better than Mo Tianji's. Some were tongue-tied, some were dumbfounded, some were at a loss, and there were all kinds of strange reactions. The content of this news was actually very simple: the Shi clan among the super clans. No more. No more? What did this mean? The meaning was very simple. The Shi clan was completely annihilated, and completely disappeared from the upper three heavens. But this simple fact made the whole martial world unable to believe it. This news made the whole martial world boil once again. They were boiling with excitement. Who was the Shi clan? It was one of the super clans, one of the top clans in the upper three heavens. The Li clan was located in the northwest. It had always been known as the northwest. And the closest to the Li clan was the Shi clan, located in the northwest towards the southwest. Therefore, after the battle to annihilate the Li clan, the first to arrive was naturally the Shi clan. However, when the Shi clan members returned to their own base camp, they were surprised to find that their clan had already become a ghost town. There was not a single living person left. Not to mention living people, there was not even the slightest sign of life. It was as if they had been exterminated from the outside to the inside. Not even chickens and dogs were spared. Because not only humans, even cats and dogs, all life had disappeared. This unexpected and terrifying phenomenon caused the hundreds of Shi clan experts who had just returned to collapse. They had set off with great ambition, intending to annihilate other clans. In terms of the result of this trip, the Li clan could be considered to have been annihilated. Although the women and children of the Li clan were still alive, the Li clan of the past no longer existed in this world. This was still a victory worth celebrating. They returned to their home with the threat of victory, only to see such an unexpected scene. It seemed that their own clan was the one that was truly annihilated. In terms of the total population of the Shi clan, it was slightly higher than the Li clan, with a total of more than 400,000 people. However, there was not a single survivor. The entire sky above the Shi clan's territory was shrouded in dark clouds, and the atmosphere was dead. Everyone who was confirmed dead had a thick layer of black air on their faces. What did this mean? What was going on? Everyone searched crazily, looking for the murderer, looking for clues, hoping to find a lucky survivor. But in the end, they found that there was really no one alive in the entire clan. Except for the first-generation ancestor, Shi Ho, who was missing, no one else was alive. They were not even missing, they were all dead here. Unexpected annihilation, mysterious annihilation, strange annihilation, annihilation without any clues. There was no clue at all who was the murderer. Chapter 1564. The only thing that could be confirmed was that the annihilation of the Shi clan happened recently because there were no signs of decomposition. From this point, the annihilation of the Shi clan could actually have happened before the annihilation of the Li clan. This could be said to be a great irony. The people of the Shi clan were devastated, desperate and crazy about the annihilation of the clan. Finally, there were still a few calm people who spread this shocking news at the first moment. The annihilation of the Shi clan. Was this news just for the Shi clan or did it affect other people? Was the murderer purely targeting the Shi clan or did he have other motives? In short, it was important to spread the news to the world as soon as possible. When Chu Yang and the others received this shocking news, they had actually just left the Northwest Territory and arrived at a small town. Everyone was traveling at full speed. Their cultivations were profound and they weren't very tired. But they still needed to fill their stomachs. Everyone was looking for a restaurant to eat and offer sacrifices to their internal organs. But they heard a lot of discussions. Mo Tianji's luck was really bad. He had accidentally stepped on a rock. And he had been so startled by this news that he hadn't been able to hold his breath. So, he had fallen flat on his face. This was the only time in his life that Mo Tianji had lost face in front of others. It was unprecedented and would never happen again. Those who were lucky enough to see it could be said to be a feast for the eyes. In fact, ever since they left the Northwest Territory, Chuyang realized that Mo Tianji would be distracted from time to time. He was really very different from his usual wise and steady self. However, he had never imagined that this guy would actually fall to such an extent. So, he hastily went forward to help him up. Mo Tianji's face turned red. This fall was like pouring water from 5 lakes and 4 seas. It would be difficult to wash away the shame on his face. Tianji, what's wrong with you? Chuyang was really puzzled. Although this news was undoubtedly shocking, it wasn't enough to shock Mo Tianji to such an extent. Nothing. I was thinking about something just now and got distracted. It's really nothing. Don't worry. Mo Tianji's handsome face flushed red. He laughed dryly and tried to cover it up. Mo Qingwu looked at her second brother strangely and frowned. Speaking of Mo Tianji, she understood him. Mo Qingwu, who had regained the memories of 2 lives, couldn't think of anyone else. Even Chuyang couldn't compare to him. Today's Mo Tianji was a little too abnormal. He actually gave off the feeling of a young lad who didn't know the ways of the world. Mo Tianji, are you in heat? The legendary strategist of tribulation is actually in heat. How rare. GMO and Luo Kadi seized the opportunity and laughed wildly. Get the hell out of here. Mo Tianji's face turned red as he angrily scolded. He then went upstairs. The annihilation of the Sher family was such a big matter that everyone needed to know immediately. And this restaurant was a place where good people mixed with bad people. It was the best place to gather information. Everyone was anxious. So they didn't bother to be picky. They simply found a big table in the hall. More than a dozen people were already seated at this table. Chuyang waved his hand and Second Master Ji walked over in high spirits. He slapped the table heavily. This table of people looked like they were all Jianghu people, but they were not willing to be outdone. They shouted angrily, "What are you doing? Are you looking for trouble?" GMO snorted and slapped 10 purple crystals on the table. Then another 10 purple crystals. Then another 10 purple crystals. Then another 10 purple crystals. The people at the table stopped talking. Everyone was breathing heavily. They looked at the purple crystals in front of them. These were all purple crystals. Treasures. It wasn't that they hadn't seen them before, but they really hadn't seen so many at once. If it were me. Such a big pile appeared all of a sudden. It was really a little shocking. Second Master Ji slapped out a total of 100 purple crystals. He pointed at the table and said, "I don't want to look for trouble. I just want a straightforward answer. As long as you give this table to us, these 100 purple crystals are yours." Straightforward? As he said that, he seemed to have accidentally crushed a purple crystal. He exclaimed, "Oh no, my strength seems to have increased again. I accidentally crushed a purple crystal. There are only 10 left. You don't have any objections? Hurry up and give me a straightforward answer." How would anyone dare to have any objections? 100 purple crystals. Yes, it was 10 pieces now. Even if it was 10 pieces, it was still a huge fortune. Only a fool wouldn't do it if they gave up a table to them. It was like a pie falling from the sky. Moreover, this guy who was like a nouveau riche was actually a super expert who could even crush purple crystals. Purple crystals had an unusual texture. Moreover, they stored a large amount of the world's spiritual energy inside. So, they were almost indestructible before they absorbed all the spiritual energy of the world. At the very least, an ordinary emperor-level expert wouldn't have such an ability. And this rascally-looking youth in front of them actually crushed it with 2 fingers. What did this mean? What level of cultivation did he have to achieve this? Not to mention that he was giving them benefits now. Even if he didn't give them benefits, they would have to obediently do as he said. If they didn't listen to him and occupied the table, then, their mother. These people didn't dare to continue thinking. It seemed that the consequences were too frightening. It was a nightmare, a nightmare. Those people quivered and shivered a few times. They hurriedly stood up. They didn't want to accept the purple crystals, but they were afraid that the nouveau riche would misunderstand. Their minds turned at lightning speed, and they diligently cleaned the table until it was spotless. Wipe the chairs as well. Alright, bring a few more chairs over. Don't you have any discerning eyes? Second Master Ji ordered arrogantly. This kind of opportunity didn't come often, especially for Second Master Ji. He was usually the one who moved the chairs. Who asked him to be the weakest among the brothers? If he wasn't punished, who would be punished? Those people blushed miserably. They didn't dare to say anything. They left a few people behind to continue wiping the chairs. The others hurriedly moved the chairs over. When there were enough chairs and they were all clean, They ran out as if they had been granted amnesty. You bunch of cowards. I didn't say that I would drive you away. Why are you running away? GMO said angrily, go sit on the side. Won't it be fine if we eat together? Besides, I still have some things to ask you. If you answer well, you will be heavily rewarded. Those people stared blankly for a moment. Then they hurriedly said, yes, yes, yes. We will tell you everything we know. They hurriedly gathered around a small table and sat down. It seemed that this small table could only seat 5 people at most. Now that 10 people sat down at once, it was really crowded. Chuyang couldn't help but shake his head. His brothers had already taken their seats. Everyone in the restaurant could see that the 12 men and women in front of them were all handsome and well-built. The women had picturesque eyebrows and beautiful faces. They were definitely not ordinary people. Just by looking at the most unattractive nouveau riche, one could tell that they were not ordinary people. Everyone's fear rose early. Even the sound of eating and drinking had been lowered a lot. The sound of talking was almost inaudible. Such people usually had a very strong background. It was difficult to provoke them. Naturally, it was better not to provoke them. I said, hurry up and bring all the best dishes and signature dishes of your restaurant to me. Quickly. Second Master Ji waved his hand. I have plenty of money. If you eat and drink well, you will be heavily rewarded. With countless purple crystals in his wallet, GMO felt that he was a nouveau riche now. Since that was the case, he naturally had to act like a nouveau riche. The surrounding diners looked at Second Master Ji's behavior and secretly thought to themselves, as expected, this fellow is probably one of the stewards and servants of this group of people. Otherwise, why would he appear so out of place when walking together with those big brothers? That's right, when big brothers go out on a trip, how could they not have a few stewards and servants who are responsible for coming out and interacting with ordinary people? Although this fellow's strength is very astonishing, his behavior has long since exposed his background. He is at most a butler. Look at that behavior, it makes people want to vomit. If he was my butler, I would have long beaten him out. I can't afford to lose face like this. If Second Master Ji knew that he had already become a butler or servant in the eyes of others, he would probably faint on the spot. Chuyang sat down and frowned. He stood up and said, since we're all in the martial world, it's fate that brought us together. Please don't bother about us. Say what you want to say, eat and drink as you want. Didn't we come to this restaurant to eat and drink happily? Haha, speaking of which, it's my sudden arrival this morning that has disturbed everyone's mood. How about this, no matter which table this morning, the money for the drinks will be on me. It's my treat. The atmosphere instantly became lively. Thank you very much, sir. This sir is really generous. What a good person, everyone was secretly surprised. This was the bearing of a real big brother. How could that nouveau riche compare to him? This sir actually used such a butler. It's really a pity for this sir's elegant demeanor. Second Master Ji shrank back, feeling very displeased. His nouveau riche behavior just now was overshadowed by Chu Yang's even more nouveau riche behavior. Second Master Ji finally got to show off, but he still didn't get to show off. How depressing. Yet Chu Yang's behavior attracted a lot of praise. There wasn't the slightest suspicion of being a nouveau riche. Could this be the so-called difference between people? Luo Kadi shook his head. Just now, I heard everyone talking about the destruction of the Shi clan, but I know nothing about this. I'm very curious. The Shi clan is one of the big clans of the upper 3 heavens. It can be said to be one of the strongest clans in the world. Was it really destroyed? What's the whole story? I don't know which brother can answer my doubts. Chuyang smiled warmly and gently placed his hand on the table. Immediately there was a big pile of purple crystals. Although he didn't say it explicitly, the meaning of his words was very obvious. Whoever says it and explains it clearly, these purple crystals will belong to him. This action immediately caused another commotion. I know. Someone stood up. I know too. I know the inside story. Chapter 1565. Chuyang frowned. He waved his hand and a bang sound was heard. The guy who had shouted the most exaggeratedly, and had said that he was at the scene, spun wildly in the air with a mouthful of blood. He flew out of the window while spinning and fell on the street with a plop sound. Then a tragic scream came from outside. Maybe I didn't say it clearly just now. I want to know the truth and don't want to hear lies. After all, my time is also very precious. Yes, novels are faster and better. Chuyang smiled as if he wasn't the one who had hit the guy just now. Everyone likes purple crystals, but I can take out so many purple crystals to ask about this matter. Firstly, I have them. Secondly, I value this information very much. From the Sher clan to here, even if one has the cultivation of a supreme martial artist, it would take at least 10 days. My palm strike just now was to test him. I thought that he was a hidden expert, but he couldn't even withstand a single blow. This guy is at most a king, but he dares to boast shamelessly in front of me. Sparing his life is already an extrajudicial mercy, a small punishment but a big warning. Just now, I didn't clearly state my rules, but this will not happen again. If there is such a person who speaks without thinking, swindlers, and tries to deceive me again, then he doesn't need to live in this world anymore. Did everyone here hear my words clearly? Now, who still thinks that he knows the whole story of the Sher clan's destruction, please come forward and answer me. Chu Yang sneered and said coldly. For a moment, everyone in the restaurant was as silent as cicadas in winter. It was true that wealth was tempting, but good things needed to be enjoyed with one's life. If one was blindly greedy, not only would they not get any benefits but they would also lose their lives. After a moment of silence, a young man stood up and said respectfully, "Sir, what do you want to know?" "Maybe I know a little. I can answer 1 or 2 questions. I will tell you everything I know. Of course, if you think that what I say is useless, you don't have to give me purple crystals." Chu Yang looked at him for a while and said, "If that's the case, please come over and sit down. Tell me slowly." "Thank you." The young man thanked him and walked over. Everyone continued to eat and drink. What I said just now still counts. I'll be the host. Chu Yang cupped his hands and bowed before sitting back down. The originally gloomy atmosphere in the restaurant gradually became lively again. After all, being able to eat and drink without spending money was a bargain. If there was an advantage, even if this place was dangerous, he would take it first. Actually, the truth of the matter is still uncertain, because the news only reached here in the past 2 days. The man said, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Tao Feng. I have a nickname in the Jianghu, Inquirer. My sources of information can be considered to have some means. I've summarized all the information I've received and came to some conclusions. They may not be completely true, but I'm confident that they're the most comprehensive information at the moment." Chu Yang nodded and listened to him. All the brothers pricked up their ears, listening to the news of this matter. After all, the Sher clan was one of the big clans in the upper 3 heavens. It was really too bizarre for them to be wiped out so silently. Moreover, the weight of this matter was too great. The annihilation of the Lan clan was due to the deaths of all the important figures in the clan. Their main combat power was no longer present, and they were no longer the strongest aristocratic clan. Thus, their name was removed from the list of aristocratic clans, but their family members were not affected much. There was also the Li clan, which had gone through an intense battle that lasted almost a year. Although all the male members who had great combat power had died, the female members were unharmed. But the Sher clan, in the true sense of the word, was wiped out overnight. Even chickens and dogs were not spared, and all living creatures were exterminated. This was simply an unbelievable matter. It was really too bizarre, too bizarre. Just 2 days ago, there was a sudden news from the Sher clan's hometown, saying that the Sher clan was wiped out. At first, this news was only circulated among the upper echelons of the big clans, but this news was too shocking. Gradually, it spread and spread in the martial world, and there were more and more versions. I did a summary, and for the time being, there are only a few points that can be confirmed. Tao Feng said, "Firstly, the Sher clan is indeed gone. Other than a small part of the battle power of the Li clan, there are no more experts of the Sher clan in the world. Secondly, the Sher clan was completely wiped out and all living creatures were wiped out. There was not even a trace of life left. It could be said that they were completely wiped out." 2 days ago, Chu Yang and Mo Tianji looked at each other. At that time they were still trekking in the ice and snow wilderness. But, counting the days, the people of the Sher clan should have just returned home 2 days ago. It seemed that this matter happened before the people of the Sher clan of the Allied forces returned home. After that, more and more news came. These news came from the Sher family members who had returned from the war. They asked for help from the aristocratic families, and the clues they provided were mainly about the circumstances of the deaths of the Sher family members. It was said that their bodies turned black as if they were poisoned to death. But after careful examination, there were no symptoms of poison at all. Everyone was like this. It was extremely bizarre. When he said this, Chu Yang and Mo Tianji looked at each other at the same time, and their eyes became serious. Also, after careful examination, there was another discovery. That is, the expressions on the faces of people with different levels of cultivation were not the same. Everyone below the martial saint level had a smile on their faces, as if they had died in their dreams. But in reality they had died outside with their clothes on. Countless people died at the same time, but they had a smile on their faces. It was extremely bizarre. And martial artists above the martial saint level had fear on their faces. Some of their eyes were wide open. This kind of expression meant that they had suffered a great shock before they died. And martial artists above the martial saint level, all of their faces were filled with anger and fear. Only a small number of martial artists above the martial saint level had some traces of battle and injuries on their bodies. Everyone in the Shi clan, including the old and the young, there were a total of 435,884 people. Except for the first ancestor, Shi Paoho, who was missing, the others were confirmed to have all died. According to the time, the Shi clan was destroyed before the Li clan. And it was not only the Shi clan. All the affiliated clans around the Shi clan, as long as they were within 1,000 miles of the Shi clan's headquarters, including the commoners, were all wiped out. In this incident, the number of people who died was definitely not the 400,000 from the Shi clan that we saw on the surface. At the very least, there were more than 1 million people. And this is the most conservative estimate. After Tao Feng finished speaking, Chu Yang and the others only felt that their hearts had reached a new height. For a moment there was silence. "My lord, this is all that I know," Tao Feng said. "Do you have any guesses about the person who did this?" Chu Yang asked. "Yes, but these guesses are mostly rumors without any basis. Even the person himself did not believe it, so I did not dare to say it." Tao Feng said very honestly. "Not bad. Mr. Tao, please take the purple crystals." Chu Yang frowned and was a little absent-minded. "I don't dare." "What do you mean you don't dare? If I ask you to take it, then take it." GMO glared. He grabbed the purple crystals and threw them into his arms. "In that case, thank you very much. I shall take my leave." Tao Feng clutched the purple crystals in his arms and went down the restaurant. In a moment he had already disappeared into the crowd. So many people had seen him take a large amount of purple crystals. He was also alone and his cultivation was not that outstanding. If he continued to stay here, he was afraid that he would not be far from death. "Housekeeper? I have actually become a servant?" Wasn't a housekeeper a servant? GMO was stunned. After a while, he suddenly roared angrily, "Which part of me looks like a housekeeper? You come back and explain to me clearly." Even though everyone had a lot on their minds, they could not help but hold their stomachs and laugh. Not long after, the dishes were served. Everyone buried their heads in eating and drinking. However, there was not the slightest bit of laughter from before. All of them had a lot on their minds. After everyone finished eating, Chu Yang threw 2 purple crystals to settle the bill. The group left the restaurant without stopping for a moment. "Tianji, what have you thought of?" Chu Yang frowned and asked. Even though Chu Yang had already vaguely guessed the conclusion, he still did not want his guess to be true. He hoped that Mo Tianji could give another answer because the consequences of his guess were really serious. "Looks like you have thought of it too. What you thought of is exactly what I thought of. I also have no other answer." Mo Tianji sighed. "Judging from the current situation, there is only one possibility, and that is that the extraterrestrial demons have made their move and slaughtered all living things. There is no life left." Chu Yang nodded with a lot on his mind. "Indeed. Other than the extraterrestrial demons, there is no one else who can create such a shocking result in a moment like this. There is no life left. Even though the Dharma Supreme also has the aura of the extraterrestrial demons, he definitely does not have such a cultivation. To be honest, I have already tried my best to overestimate the abilities of the extraterrestrial demons. However, I really did not expect them to be so terrifying. I believe that even if Wu Jueqing used all his means, he would not be able to create such an outcome." Mo Tianji took a deep breath. Chu Yang sighed. "There is no comparison between the two. The extraterrestrial demons exist above the Heavenly Imperial Court in the first place. They do not belong to the Heavenly Imperial Court and are even able to attack and defend against the people in the Heavenly Imperial Court. Towards this lower level of the plane, of course, they are even more unstoppable. Millions of people. All gone in one night." Chu Yang's voice was extremely heavy. Not to mention one Wu Jueqing. Even if there were 10 Wu Jueqing attacking together, they would not be able to do it. Even if Zi Sheqing were here again, she might not be able to do it. The horror of the extraterrestrial demons can be seen clearly. Even though the two of them did not speak to outsiders, the group of brothers could all hear them. Instantly, everyone felt as if their hearts were being pressed by a lead block, unusually heavy. Chapter 1566. In the entire Shi clan, it seems that only Shi Paoxiao, who has reached the peak of first-grade supreme martial artist, is qualified to escape from the extraterrestrial demon. So Shi Paoxiao is missing. In other words, to escape from the extraterrestrial demon, one must at least have the cultivation of a first-grade supreme martial artist, and only he can escape. After Shi Paoxiao disappeared, he didn't show up. Normally, when something like this happened, he should have rushed to the Yi clan or the enforcers immediately. But he didn't. This means that he is missing because he fell into the hands of the extraterrestrial demon, and he is seriously injured. He can't even take care of himself now. So, if a first-grade supreme martial artist wants to escape from the extraterrestrial demon, he also has to fight with his life. Chuyang took a deep breath and smiled bitterly. According to this model, if you and my brothers really fight against the extraterrestrial demons, not to mention that we have no hope of winning, what are the chances of us escaping? The brothers were silent. Chuyang directly said that there was no hope of winning, and even the chance of escaping was extremely slim. These words were not without reason. Based on the analysis of the information that they currently had, if the two sides really met, perhaps none of them would be able to escape. Even Chuyang, the master of Calamity Sword, might not be an exception. From the perspective of the world, the extraterrestrial demon's power is already extremely terrifying. But I still feel that this so-called extraterrestrial demon is more or less weak. Gu Duxing frowned and said, since the extraterrestrial demon can fight with the Imperial Court of Heaven, it should be easy for him to destroy the Double Heavens continent. But now he only destroyed the Shi clan and Shi Paoxiao escaped. This strength may not be really invincible. After all, this is the Double Heavens continent, not the Imperial Court of Heaven. If the extraterrestrial demon can come and go as he pleases, this place would have been long gone. Mo Qinji said, so, this extraterrestrial demon is definitely not an ordinary person. After arriving, he immediately attacked and destroyed the Shi clan. Shi Paoxiao escaped. Can we understand it this way? This extraterrestrial demon is very likely to be seriously injured? And it is very likely that he was beaten down? And he may even have serious injuries that are difficult to recover from? So this is the result? If we infer from this direction he killed someone, not to show his demonic power but to heal? Or something else? If we continue to deduce to be able to be beaten to this point, what level of strength should he be at? Now, this injured Sky Devil is indeed weakened, but how much of his power does he still have? Mo Qinji furrowed his brows and continued to unravel the entire story bit by bit. If a large number of living beings are massacred, would he be able to recover from his injuries here, and to what extent would he be able to recover? Therefore, if they wanted to get rid of him, they would have to seize the opportunity before he recovered. But in the face of such an enemy, how could they kill him? If he retreated, he would die. Even if we advance, we may not necessarily have a chance of survival. We can neither advance nor retreat. We are in a dilemma. Chuyang's brows furrowed even tighter. Mo Tianji's words also cleared up the tangled thoughts in his mind. Chuyang didn't have any proof, but he still believed that the truth was as Mo Tianji had said. Even though there were some minor discrepancies, the overall direction was undoubtedly correct. If you want to come to the upper three heavens or even the entire layered heavens, then you have to go to the upper three heavens. In addition to passing through the heavenly imperial court, one would also have to pass through the turbulence of time and space. Chuyang said, if there were no accidents, even a heavenly devil king wouldn't be able to reach here so easily. Therefore, the arrival of this Sky Devil was purely an accident. But this accident is a disaster for the entire heavenly imperial court. The most important thing now is to hurry. Let's go. Chuyang made a prompt decision. Although this matter is important and needs to be solved urgently, we can't do anything about it. However, we have no way to solve this problem at the moment. Let's put this matter aside for now. It's more important to increase our strength first. If we increase our strength, we'll have more means to protect ourselves. That's true. I believe that the big clans are more panicked than us. Mo Tianji smiled. Let's let the big clans and the law enforcement officers handle it first. We'll also let them know how powerful the Sky Devil is. Otherwise there will be internal strife. Didn't they say that ordinary people are like ants? Now it's their turn to be ants. Let's see if they're injured. Everyone smiled bitterly. Let's make the best out of it. Just as Mo Tianji had said, this was the truth. Like a sharp arrow, the group sped off in the direction they had set. Everyone felt rather uneasy. Just as Chuyang had said, the most important thing now was to increase their cultivation. Otherwise, even if they met the Sky Devil, they would only be killed. Only by working hard on their own cultivation would they have the means to survive and the means to deal with the Sky Devil. However, Chu Yang and Mo Tianji did not expect that they would actually run into the heavenly demon head-on, even though their original intention was to temporarily avoid the heavenly demon's attack. Yizue sped all the way. He didn't even know why. Previously, he had been tracking that black aura all the way. He also didn't know how far he had traveled before he suddenly lost his sense of the black aura. This result caused him to wander around the wilderness like a headless fly for several days. When the black aura appeared again, it had already changed direction. But no matter what, he finally had a target to move forward. Yizue pulled himself together and continued forward. Finally, he saw a stretch of black aura spreading in the sky above a forest. It was the Sky Devil aura that he felt strongly attracted to. Yizue hesitated for a moment. After making up his mind, he quickened his pace again, wanting to enter the forest. He wanted to find the source of this Sky Devil aura and where it was. Just as he was moving stealthily, the wind suddenly howled and a black shadow landed quietly. Yizue turned to look and saw that someone had appeared beside him. His long black hair cascaded down his shoulders like a waterfall and his expression was bleak and cold. Upon seeing him, this person also seemed to be taken aback for a moment. He asked in a deep voice, "Little one, are you from the Yi clan?" Following this question, an astonishing aura that seemed to control heaven and earth surged toward him. It was as if this person standing before him was the ruler of this entire world. Even someone as unruly as Yizue instantly felt an immense pressure as if heaven and earth were collapsing. He actually couldn't summon up any thoughts of resistance. Thoughts flashed through his mind and he suddenly recalled a familiar and imposing figure. Many years ago, when the Dharma Supreme came to the Yi clan, Yizue, as the #1 duke of the clan, had the honor of meeting him. Now, the aura of this person in front of him was actually exactly the same as that of the Dharma Supreme back then. At least they were extremely similar. Yizue was puzzled. He asked respectfully, "Yes, I am Yizue from the Yi clan. May I ask if Elder is the Dharma Supreme?" The Dharma Supreme's eyes revealed a hint of admiration. "Not bad. The people of the Yi clan indeed have good eyesight and memory. It's rare that you still remember me." Yizue said respectfully, "Elder is the ruler of the world and can be said to be the only one in the world. Even if I forget about everyone, I still dare not forget the Dharma Supreme's astonishing aura." The Dharma Supreme nodded. As his eyes opened and closed, he asked, "You came here for?" Yizue said, "I was passing by this place by chance and suddenly saw a black aura surging into the sky. It was so evil that I feared that there were evil spirits disturbing the world. I specially came over to check and see what was going on." Even if he was facing the Dharma Supreme, he still wouldn't dare to say that he had the aura of the extraterrestrial demon in his body. His tone was naturally as dignified as possible. The aura of the extraterrestrial demon was definitely the greatest taboo in the entire heavens. Once exposed, as the #1 law enforcement officer of the heavens, it would be strange if the Dharma Supreme didn't kill him immediately. The Dharma Supreme looked at him coldly and said, "Since that's the case, did you discover anything unusual?" Yizue said respectfully, "I just came here and haven't entered. But I was lucky enough to bump into you." The Dharma Supreme said, "Thank you for your concern. I came here for the same purpose as you. I will hold the fort here. You can go in and take a look. As long as you are careful, there shouldn't be any problems." Yizue was secretly happy. "You're not going in? That's great." He said, "Yes, thank you for your guidance." He turned and walked inside. The black fog seemed to be filled with an aura that had formed a great desire for him. And that feeling was getting stronger and stronger. Yizue almost couldn't help but run over. A figure beside him flashed. It was the Dharma Supreme who followed him and said indifferently, "The evil aura here is very abnormal. Let me go in with you in case any accidents happen and I can't help you in time." Yizue felt a chill in his heart. If the #1 law enforcement officer, the Dharma Supreme, was by his side, how could he go and collect the aura of the extraterrestrial demon? If he made any strange movements, he would probably be killed on the spot. But at this moment, how could he say no? He couldn't even hesitate. The slightest hesitation could lead to death. At this moment, Yizue's heart was filled with extreme bitterness. "Damn it, didn't you say you weren't going in? Why are your words like farts?" What he didn't know was that the aura of the extraterrestrial demon in the Dharma Supreme's body was much stronger than Yizue's. Now that the aura of the extraterrestrial demon had suddenly become more enticing, the attraction that the Dharma Supreme felt naturally increased by tens or even hundreds of times. Even with the Dharma Supreme's cultivation, when faced with such temptation, he was completely unable to suppress the desire in his heart. With his eyesight, he had long seen through the fact that Yizue also had the aura of the extraterrestrial demon. His original intention was to let Yizue go in and check out the situation while he waited for an opportunity to take action. If there were any risks, he could make plans in advance. But when he realized that the attraction had suddenly increased by hundreds of times, he was afraid that it would benefit Yizue. He couldn't hold it in anymore and went in. When the Dharma Supreme and Yizue entered the forest, Chuyang and the others had just left the northwest and arrived at that small town. The time difference between the two parties was about 10 days or so apart. The Dharma Supreme and Yizue would never have thought that the forest that the two of them had entered was the place that Chuyang wanted to rush to at full speed. This forest could be said to be extremely dense. Both the Dharma Supreme and Yizue didn't choose to enter from the main road. Instead, they chose a path full of thorns, which required them to continuously chop down the vines that blocked their path. The black fog was right in front, neither close nor far. Chapter 1567. Venomous snakes slithered out from the bushes continuously. Waves after waves of wild beasts also rushed out from the bushes, fleeing madly towards the outside. When they saw the Dharma Supreme and Yizue blocking their way, they immediately started attacking wildly. To the Dharma Supreme and Yizue, the extraterrestrial demonic energy was certainly something they could only dream of. However, to these venomous snakes and beasts, it was a lethal poison. They had only ventured 300 miles into the forest, but the two of them had already killed countless wild beasts that roared past them. Finally, they were only a short distance away from that black fog. Right in front of them, a huge mass of black fog was moving densely. It was the purest extraterrestrial demonic energy. The extraterrestrial demonic energy was right in front of them, as if they could obtain it easily. Both of them were breathing rather rapidly. As if sensing the arrival of the two of them, the black mist suddenly emitted whooshing sounds, and then, like 100 rivers converging into the sea, it quickly shrank back in an instant, like a black snake rushing back to its nest, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. In the dark and dense fog ahead, a blurry figure appeared indistinctly. An unusually tired voice said, "To think that there would be two more people here. Where did you come from?" This voice was very tired. Not only was it tired, it was also very weak. It even gave off a subtle feeling that he would die the next moment. This person should be severely injured. Both of them had this feeling at the same time. However, in contrast to this intense feeling, that person also possessed an extremely powerful strength. It was a tyrannical strength that was almost irresistible. The combination of the two, this was a force that seemed to have reached the end of one's life. However, it still had a terrifying force that could engulf the world and destroy the entire world. There was even a kind of brutality that spread in the air. Yizue was suspicious. He didn't dare to answer. The Dharma Supreme raised his head and asked in a low voice, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" That voice was silent for a moment. Suddenly, it let out a low and strange laugh. "Asking questions instead of answering? What an interesting little fellow. You're quite brave. Since you're already here, why don't you come in and let me take a look?" With a swoosh, the dense forest suddenly started to decay rapidly. In the blink of an eye, a path appeared out of thin air in front of the two of them. All the flowers, plants, and trees that were originally on this path had all disappeared without a trace. It had inexplicably decayed and evaporated. An extremely flat road was abruptly formed just like that. Seeing this scene, Yizue and the Dharma Supreme both gasped. Such a miraculous cultivation. Even the Dharma Supreme himself would not be able to do it, much less in such a bizarre way. As the two stepped onto the path, they both felt the demonic chi in their bodies begin to circulate wildly. He couldn't help but emit dense black smoke from his body. The Dharma Supreme had naturally sensed it long ago, but Yizue was flabbergasted. Looking at the black gas emitted from the Dharma Supreme's body, it was a bizarre and absurd feeling as if the world had been turned upside down. Who was the Dharma Supreme? This was the ruler of the heavenly layer, who commanded the law enforcers of the world. He was a righteous leader who worked for the welfare of all the people in the Chongtian continent. And now, the heavenly demon energy, which was said to be the evilest in the world, had actually emerged from the Dharma Supreme's body? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? Am I seeing things? Lord Dharma Supreme. Why you? Yizue was so stunned that he couldn't speak. The Dharma Supreme snorted coldly, his eyes revealing a sharp murderous aura. He turned to look at Yizue. An intense murderous intent. A sudden and fierce outburst. It was obvious that the Dharma Supreme was going to silence him. No matter what, he was not going to let Yizue live. Competing with me for benefits, even demons have to die. If you dare to kill him, I will kill you. In the dense forest, that tired voice said indifferently, try moving again. The Dharma Supreme froze. He felt that the heavenly demon energy in his body suddenly went out of control, as if it was going to rush against his heart meridians. He really didn't dare to move. The Dharma Supreme could clearly sense that although the person before him was exhausted, he was not threatening to kill him. He really had the ability to kill him with one strike. Such a cultivation level, perhaps only the mysterious girl Zixieqing could compare to him. In the Dharma Supreme's eyes, even in front of the extraterrestrial demons, he was still more important. Although Yizue also had the heavenly demon energy, his cultivation level was low and he was just a nobody. He wasn't of much use, so what if he killed him? Other than reducing the benefits of sharing the heavenly demon energy here, he could also avoid future troubles. After all, if his identity of having the heavenly demon energy was exposed, the consequences would be unimaginable. Besides, there were only two people from the heavens here, Yizue and him. Without Yizue, that mysterious fiend would only have him as his only choice. Therefore, killing Yizue was definitely a good thing with no disadvantages. Yizue must die. With this thought, the Dharma Supreme pretended to be respectful and said, yes, I will obey Elder's orders. Listening to his words seemed to mean that he had given in. However, just as the Dharma Supreme finished his sentence, a sharp glint flashed across his eyes and he suddenly raised his hand. With a whoosh, a slight ripple appeared in the air. He was so close that he attacked with all his might. One strike to kill, one strike to kill. The Dharma Supreme was confident that his sneak attack was so sudden and the distance was so close. In the entire heavens, there was absolutely no one who could save Yizue. Yizue would definitely die, and he would die a horrible death with his spirit destroyed. Hee. With a sneer, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of Yizue. Then two streams of black gas appeared out of nowhere and met the Dharma Supreme's hands head-on. With two loud bangs, the two powerful forces collided, but only a very soft sound was heard. If it wasn't for the fact that the place was completely silent, even the soft sound would not have been heard. The Dharma Supreme's shock was no small matter. His thoughts flashed and he didn't dare to be negligent in the slightest as he retreated rapidly. As he retreated at high speed, the air was filled with popping sounds, as if the black gas was devouring the vibrations in the air. The earth-shattering power just now disappeared without a trace in an instant. Due to Yizue's low cultivation level, he actually didn't manage to react to the sudden change in events earlier. By the time he finally understood what had happened, he realized that he had actually narrowly escaped death. He was filled with lingering fear. His face instantly turned pale and his legs almost started to tremble. Suddenly he scolded furiously, "Dharma Supreme! I respect you as a senior and have always been respectful to you. But I didn't expect you to be such a despicable person with a hypocritical mouth and a knife hidden in your smile. With your status, you actually dared to do such a sneak attack on a junior like me. Do you still have any shame? On the surface, you are the leader of the law enforcement officers, but deep down, you are a descendant of the heavenly demon. But that's not all. Why do you want to kill me? Can't you see that I am also a descendant of the heavenly demon?" Yizue was especially impulsive now that he had narrowly escaped death. The anger and hatred in his heart couldn't be quelled and the tyrannical emotions of the heavenly demon in his body erupted. He no longer had any scruples. With red eyes, he roared angrily, "Do you think that I am always easy to provoke?" This Dookie was indeed very impressive. He actually called himself Elder in front of the Dharma Supreme face to face. If his elder master Yi Qinshan were to find out about this, he wondered what he would think. The Dharma Supreme's attack had failed. He already knew that the mysterious person was not only terrifyingly powerful, he was also an expert in scheming and plotting. To think that he had already been prepared for the Dharma Supreme's movements. Knowing that there was no chance of success, he decided not to attack again. As for Yizue's scolding, he pretended not to hear it. His lean face was still calm and composed, like an ancient well without ripples. Hee. That strange person's voice said, "If you leave this place, I won't care how you fight to the death. But as long as I am here, only I can kill. No one else can. Wherever I am, that is where I am, the master of life and death." That strange person's voice was low and hoarse but filled with a peculiar rhythm. When he said this, he sounded even more domineering and imposing, like a sovereign descending upon the world. The Dharma Supreme smiled lightly. Wherever you are, only you can kill. If that's the case, I will follow your rules and not kill him. He is just an ant. What harm is there in letting him go? That strange person was silent for a moment. Suddenly he started panting violently. Their panting sounds were as eerie as the weeping of countless ghosts. That strange man's temper could be said to be arrogant, domineering, and extremely dictatorial. If he was not injured, the Dharma Supreme's half-mocking, half-compromising attitude would be enough to arouse his murderous intent, and he would have killed the Dharma Supreme with his palm. However, at this critical juncture, if he could save a bit of strength, he would save a bit of strength. Most importantly, with his current cultivation level, being able to defeat the person in front of him was already his limit. Speaking of stopping him from escaping, he really had no confidence. The timing was delicate now. He could not do anything that he was not completely confident in. The Dharma Supreme asked, "Is this elder from the extraterrestrial world?" That strange person snorted and said eerily, "You are asking the obvious. I am the person you are thinking of." The Dharma Supreme smiled. Then, the commotion here must have been intentionally revealed by the elder to lure us here? That strange person was silent for a moment. Then he said, "You'd better not speak. Especially don't ask questions. I don't like answering others' questions. If you continue to spout nonsense, I am afraid that I will not be able to resist killing you." The Dharma Supreme's heart skipped a beat. He said, "Yes." He thought to himself, "This guy is really bossy and domineering. He has a lot of weaknesses in his character. These weaknesses can be exploited. This continent is actually called the Double Heavens continent." That strange person muttered to himself doubtfully. Suddenly he said angrily, "Bah, why should I? What right does such a despicable place have to be called the Double Heavens continent?" Towards this question, the Dharma Supreme and Yi Zue were both stunned. For a moment, they did not know how to answer and did not know why the other party said that. Double Heavens continent. It seemed to have been called this for hundreds of thousands of years. What was the problem? Upper three heavens, lower three heavens, and lower three heavens were called the Double Heavens. It was logical and appropriate. This guy's attitude seemed to be a little strange. Chapter 1568. Elder, all this while, this place has been called the Chongtian continent. I wonder what's wrong with this name? Yi Zue finally found a chance to interject, but he was stubborn and didn't even glance at the Dharma Supreme. "I thought you were so powerful and powerful. But you are also practicing demonic arts like me. You better not offend me. If I get the chance, I will destroy you even if I have to risk my life. You are a fake monarch, a real demon, and your reputation will be ruined. Damn it. You better not offend me. If I get the chance, I will destroy you even if I have to risk my life." Thinking of this, Yi Zue suddenly felt a thrill of challenging authority. Wrong? Very wrong. That weirdo snorted coldly. This is a small place just like a garbage dump. How can it be called Chongtian? Suddenly he stopped irritably and roared, "Don't harp on this matter anymore. If you spout any more nonsense, I will kill you." Yi Zue was speechless. Damn it, weren't you the one who started this topic? Why are you acting like this now? You keep talking about killing. If not for the fact that I can't beat you, I would have died long ago. You bastard. How can this be? How did I end up in such a shabby place? That weirdo muttered and cursed. This place can't even receive a little bit of heavenly demon chi. What a bastard. The Dharma Supreme stood tall in the wind, a smile on his face, looking calm. Although he looked calm, his heart couldn't help but weigh the pros and cons. This weirdo is injured. This weirdo is seriously injured. This person had suffered a fatal injury. Besides, it was a huge accident that he ended up here. More importantly, he didn't come here willingly. Then how did he end up here? Although this weirdo is powerful, he can't unleash too much power now. If I want to escape unscathed, I can do so at any time with full confidence. However, if I can absorb all the heavenly demon chi here, I can achieve great success. No one in the entire Chongtian will be my match. Be it Ning Qinya Buluqing or Wu Jueqing, they will all be no match for me. Even if that mysterious woman comes again, I don't have to be afraid as long as I can absorb all the heavenly demon chi here. I really like making games. The strange man let out a strange laugh and said, "Now, since you're here, you must play a game with me. If you really don't want to play, just leave your lives behind." Game? Do you want to die if you don't? Not to mention a young man like Yi Zue, even the Dharma Supreme almost bit off his tongue when he heard this. The black fog rippled, and the monster inside was completely enveloped by the black fog. His face contorted strangely. "You two bastards think this seat wants to say and do this? If it weren't for the fact that I'm severely injured and the heavenly demon chi in your bodies are impure and impure, why would I be so bored as to play games with you? It's all for the sake of purifying the sky demon chi of you two idiots. Don't even think about running away. If you don't play, you'll definitely die." The strange man sneered eerily. "Previously, there was a member of the Shur clan who refused to play games with me. In a fit of anger, I slaughtered everyone in that clan, not even a cat or a dog. So you're really the one behind the Shur clan incident." The Dharma Supreme's pupils shrank as realization dawned on him. During this period of time, the Dharma Supreme had naturally heard about this incident, and he was the one who knew the most about it. After all, he was the head of the law enforcement officers, and also the one whom the remnants of the Shur clan could rely on to help arrest the culprit. "It's me, so what? Do you want to play games? Don't play games where you don't mean what you say. My tolerance isn't very good." The strange man laughed cruelly. From his laughter, one could almost see that he was licking his lips greedily. Of course, this wasn't the case. He had killed so many people, and his original intention was for this so-called game. There were also some other reasons. But this matter couldn't be explained to the two in front of him. "May I know what game Senior wants to play? What are the rules? How do you want the two of us to cooperate?" The Dharma Supreme's eyes flashed. He thought to himself, if this guy wants to play games, it's definitely not simple. There's a high chance that it has something to do with the sky demon energy, or maybe it's beneficial for his recovery. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't play games at such a time and under such circumstances. But this guy kept referring to himself as I, and didn't refer to himself as this Lord, this Lord, this, and so on. That means, this guy's position in the sky demon land might not be very high. It might even be very low. The Dharma Supreme's eyes flashed. He had already come to a conclusion. "Now let's start the game." The strange man couldn't wait any longer. He said, "Listen to me, let's start immediately. This is a very interesting game. You might get addicted to it, keek. If the game satisfies me, the sky demon energy here can be collected by the two of you to your heart's content." As he continued to talk, the strange man seemed to be in a good mood. In the end, he actually laughed loudly. It was just that his laughter was really unpleasant to the ears. Yizue and the Dharma Supreme were both rather nervous and expectant. This game looks like it's no small matter? At the thought of collecting the sky demon energy to their heart, even the Dharma Supreme's heart couldn't help but beat wildly. You can rest assured. This game is definitely beneficial and harmless to the two of you. I can even conclude that after you've played it once, even if I don't bring you along, you'll automatically get addicted to it. The strange man laughed strangely. Then his voice became even more hoarse. He coughed twice like a venomous snake and said, "Now let the game begin." A ball of pitch-black demonic aura suddenly surged out, enveloping both Yizue and the Dharma Supreme. Yizue suddenly realized that there seemed to be no one around him anymore. The Dharma Supreme was clearly right in front of him, but he couldn't sense anything anymore. It wasn't just the Dharma Supreme. Where was that strange man? The entire forest and even the entire world had disappeared. In a trance, he was the only one left, surrounded by that ball of pitch-black demonic aura. It was as if this ball of demonic aura was the entire primal chaos. Then Yizue suddenly realized that in this primal chaos that was completely formed by demonic aura, there were wisps of demonic aura entering through his nostrils and pores all over his body. As he breathed, they slowly entered. Then, in this primal chaos, specks of golden light suddenly appeared. They grew bigger and bigger, more and more obvious. They were actually rows and rows of golden words. Riches and honor, power over the world, supremacy, immortality, parents of one's parents, blood-related brothers, life and death brothers, beautiful wives and concubines, lifelong companions, all the people in the world, commanding the world. Everything, everything, everything. As long as it was a desire that existed in one's heart, it was all here. Whatever one wanted, it was all here. Whatever one didn't want or didn't expect, it was all here as well. All in all, there were at least 50 of them. That strange man's tired voice rang out. The large golden words here are what I concluded. They are the goals that a person desires to achieve the most and the things that they desire to obtain the most. Everything is here. It's very comprehensive, isn't it? As long as one is a person, he will definitely have desires. Only desires are the source of motivation. That strange man sneered. Therefore, you humans are really very easy to control. As long as you grasp the key point, everything will be under your control. Let's officially start the game now. Both Yizue and the Dharma Supreme felt the veins on their foreheads bulging at his words. They couldn't help but ask, what exactly do we have to do? What are the rules? The rules are very simple. There are 50 choices here. That strange man said eerily, now pick out the things that you desire the most and don't want to lose the most. You can choose. You can't choose one more or one less. Start choosing. How do we choose? They are all illusory and unrealistic things. It's even simpler. Whichever one you like, you just need to tap lightly with your finger and it will be done. After you have completed all the choices, the others that have not been chosen will automatically disappear. That strange man said solemnly, remember, although this is just a game, it is based on the foundation of both of you and the achievements that you can achieve in the end. Therefore, both of you must be careful and not choose wrongly. The moment you make a mistake, the one who will suffer the greatest loss is yourselves. The moment they heard these few sentences, especially the last sentence, even the Dharma Supreme became inexplicably cautious, let alone Yizue. When they looked at the 50 pairs of breasts, their gazes also became much more solemn. Let's begin. The strange man waved his hand. Another ball of black fog flew out and merged with that ball of black demonic aura from before. Instantly, the two of them felt the black fog in their respective spaces become even thicker. The demonic aura that had already entered their bodies seemed to be driving their original cultivation, surging endlessly. Slowly, some changes also occurred in their hearts. Following this, the black demonic chi began to revolve, and the 50 types of desires in front of him also began to revolve. Each type of desire would pause for a moment when it was in front of him, giving them time to see clearly and make a choice. Izue's brows furrowed as he stared at the golden words spinning continuously in front of him. When the words I, the unique and righteous, flashed past him, Yizue suddenly felt a sudden change in him. It was as if he was standing at the top of the world, unsheathing his sword and looking around, killing whoever he wanted. Those who followed him would prosper and those who opposed him would perish. Looking around the universe, I, the unique and righteous, commanding the heavens and earth, no one dares to disobey me. How exhilarating, how domineering, how yearning was that? He believed that no man would dislike the exhilarating feeling of being the unique and righteous. Yizue didn't even realize when he had raised his hand and tapped on the words I, the unique and righteous, as if he couldn't wait any longer. The moment these 4 words were tapped, golden light shone brightly, but it was even more dazzling than the other golden words. Chapter 1569. Since he was already the most powerful person in the world, then he had to ask for a long lifespan. Otherwise, what was the point of being the most powerful person in the world for only 1 or 2 days? Therefore, Yizue's second choice was very straightforward and orderly. He immediately chose the option of immortality. This option also shone brightly. Yizue's mind was very clear and he completely understood what he was doing. He had already chosen 2 of them. Not only was there no abnormality at all, he even became more and more excited, happier and more satisfied. In a place that Yizue couldn't see, those wisps of heavenly demon aura were continuously invading his heart meridians. At the place where the bridge of heaven and earth was, thick black fog was already beginning to spread. In the place where the thick fog spread, a pair of cruel eyes, like a vulture in the desert, watched the changes on Yizue's face. As Yizue's mind and meridians were contaminated by the demonic aura, more and more black aura would appear at the position of his brows. These signs symbolized that the heavenly demon origin in his body would become a little more intense. That strange man looked at Yizue's heavenly demon origin with some desire, silently licking his lips with his tongue. To him, this was something that was really useful for healing injuries. Lust was the driving force and also the origin. But when lust completely suppressed rationality and could trample on everything in life, it was demonic. Everyone has the heavenly demon origin in their bodies. He laughed strangely silently. The difference is just whether it can be stimulated. As long as it is stimulated, even if it's not a demon, it's still a demon. Demons are born from the heart and all living beings are demons. I only need the heavenly demon origin. As long as it recovers, these 2 people will be my most loyal fighters. Since I'm here, I'll make this place my own backyard no matter what. Hee. As he thought of this, he couldn't help but reveal the proudest smile on his face. As for the Sure clan, I thought that after absorbing so many people's soul energy here, I'd be able to recover quite a bit. Who knew that the souls of the people there didn't have the slightest bit of immortal aura at all? After slaughtering more than 1 million people, I've only recovered less than 1% of my energy. It's actually not as much as the energy I expended. Instead, my injuries have worsened. This result is really outrageous. If I hadn't gotten that thing by chance, I might not even be able to get up now. He had no choice but to use the power of those souls to complete the myriad souls exorcism array. The only thing he could do now was to see if these two fellows could pass his test in the myriad souls demon exorcism formation, completely release their inner demons and complete their heavenly demon origins. He was watching attentively, looking forward to the results from the bottom of his heart. Yizue didn't notice those changes at all. The current him, in his mind, was already immortal and unrivaled. His heart was filled with boundless joy. It was as if he had begun to live forever in an environment where immortality and power were absolute. But what's missing? Yizue snorted. His eyes focused on the various concubines that were spinning in the air. Then the next target that was worth choosing appeared. Beautiful wives and concubines as beautiful as the clouds. These words flashed past his eyes and paused for a moment. Countless beautiful women instantly appeared before Yizue's eyes. Each and every one of them was an outstanding beauty. Each and every one of them had the countenance of a flower and the countenance of the moon, looking deeply affectionate. That's right. Since there's immortality and also, I, the unique and righteous, then I still lack people to keep me company. And these women can be used to pass the time. A wide grin hung on Yizue's face, his entire body filled with lust. He reached out and pointed at the words beautiful wives and concubines, peerless beauties. The next moment he obtained all these desires in an instant. Yizue became even more complacent and began to smugly choose the fourth option. Then Yizue realized that even though he was already unrivaled in the world, unrivaled, immortal, and had countless beautiful wives and concubines by his side, it seemed like he was still very poor and didn't have the capital to spend money like that. Therefore he tapped on glory and wealth. The moment he made the choice, he was still rather surprised. Could it be that even though I'm already unrivaled, it didn't include glory and wealth? Just as this thought rose in his mind, he heard that strange person's voice say, unrivaled refers to power and status. Glory and wealth, however, refer to wealth and power. The two are fundamentally different and cannot be lumped together. Oh, I see. Yizue nodded. Then he suddenly shouted, you can actually know what I'm thinking? How dare you? His current state of mind was already one of unrivaled supremacy. As he spoke, he naturally sounded condescending. At this moment, it was as if he was berating a servant. It was as if he was saying, if you make me unhappy again, I'll kill you. Such a feeling was hard to describe. The strange person opened his mouth and frowned. His face was filled with black lines. He wanted to flare up but couldn't do anything. How depressing. Fuck, how did this bastard get into character so quickly? He's actually completely immersed in it already. The strange person pursed his lips and suppressed his anger. He didn't say anything more. It's more important that you don't spoil my grand plan. Wait till I completely subdue you. After waiting for a while, there was still no response. Yizue only thought that the other party had already been intimidated by his divine might and was scared stiff or even scared to death. He snorted in satisfaction and lectured, fuck you, be more obedient in the future. Don't make me angry. Or else I'll kill you. That strange person's resentment was almost completely suppressed in his chest. He almost really died from anger. You little brat, you're really daring. I've always made you feel good, happy, intoxicated, comfortable and excited. How dare you treat me like this? I don't want to lower myself to your level now. When your demonic nature is completely awakened, just wait to become my slave. See if I don't order you around all the time. 4 options, soon. Yizue's wish was fulfilled and he became even more pleased with himself. He thought about it again and thought that it wasn't enough just having these options. So he casually added, my parents, my clan is grand. However, he didn't choose blood-related brothers. Those bastards, which one of them is worthy of being my blood-related brothers? I'm already immortal. What's the use of having blood-related brothers? He had these options again. It wasn't enough for him to be the only one in the world. He also had to have absolute power, the power to dominate the universe. Therefore he chose, invincible in the world. In an instant he became a lonely expert, the kind who couldn't stand the cold at the top. But it wasn't good to always fight alone. It was too troublesome and tiring. He might as well get some loyal and devoted fighters. Yizue chuckled and reached out to point at brothers in life and death. But the moment he did so, his finger cut open. What's going on? Yizue asked authoritatively. The definition of brothers in life and death is to contribute to each other, go through life and death together, and relate to honor and disgrace. They are not fighters. That strange person explained very modestly and cautiously. Your definition is wrong. Oh, is that so? Izue thought for a moment and said, then I don't want fighters. I want brothers in life and death. This time he nodded very smoothly. But that strange person outside sighed. This bastard's choice is directly equivalent to a useless effort. In the blink of an eye, it was the eighth choice. Izue thought for a long time. When he saw his beautiful wives and concubines looking at him with resentment in their eyes, he let out a bitter laugh. Sigh, just having wealth, power and invincible strength isn't enough. There's also that happiness between a man and a woman. Therefore he chose couple's life ability, without hesitation. You only have one choice left now. That strange person's voice reminded him solemnly. Once this was done, the game would also be about to end. So fast? Why is there only one choice left? Izue was stunned. He woke up from the boundless intoxication of being complacent, yet he felt a sense of urgency, as well as a sense of dejection that he had wasted so many opportunities. Then he counted the parts that he had chosen and finally realized, I have everything. I'm still freaking all alone. As an emperor he couldn't just lead his own family, wives and brothers, could he? Izue gritted his teeth and chose all lives in the world. All the choices were made. The strange person outside sighed from the bottom of his heart. Fuck, he had played this game so many times, but he had truly never seen such a weirdo. To actually use such a reason to choose all lives in the world. I really have to give it to you. Izue pointed down. All lives in the world lit up immediately. The other 47 choices disappeared without a trace in an instant. In the vast land of chaos there was only one choice left. The choice that Izue had made, the wish to build his perfect life. Supreme in the world, immortality, beautiful wives and concubines, parents and family, glory and wealth, invincibility in the world, brothers of life and death, all lives in the world, and couple's life ability. All of them, not one less, not one more. Yet Izue was still sighing. He was lamenting that he could still choose something better. Forget it, the world is not complete and there is no such thing as perfection in life. Humans should be content with what they have. These are more or less enough. He really wasn't greedy. On the other side, the Dharma Supreme was also strictly following the rules of the game and making his choice seriously. Unlike Izue, who made his choice casually, he didn't choose anything at all in the first round. He only seriously considered the implications of each choice as it passed by him, what he could gain, and whether he would lose anything after gaining it. After repeatedly weighing the pros and cons, he only started making his choice from the second round. At first glance, the choices he made were more or less the same as Izue's. But upon closer inspection they were poles apart. Moreover, the order he chose was also extremely gradual. In other words, he followed the most logical order of derivation. Strong physique number 1. Obviously, the Dharma Supreme believed that no matter what he did, he would need a healthy and strong body. Without a good body, it would be difficult to achieve anything. Even if he managed to accomplish it, he wouldn't have more opportunities to enjoy it. Invincibility in the world number 2. Immortality number 3. In other words, it was only after he had these that he started thinking about immortality, followed by supreme in the world. Since he was immortal, he naturally had to build a career. Commanding the world number 5. Life in the world number 1. Then came his parents and family. Number 8 was his brothers of life and death. Number 9 was his beautiful wives and concubines. In other words, in the end, when he had almost nothing to do, he would find a few beautiful women to play with, or at least experience something new. Cough cough, brothers and sisters, if it were you, what would you choose? Chapter 1570. The Dharma Supremes and Izue's choices were almost fundamentally different. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were worlds apart. After the two of them finally made their choices, the Dharma Supreme closed his eyes and rested, carefully checking if there were any changes in his body. Izue, however, was vexed. It was as if the Dharma Supreme and Izue had both chosen beautiful wife and beautiful concubines who are as beautiful as the clouds. As for the option of lifelong companions, husband and wife in life and death, the Dharma Supreme and Izue seemed to have a tacit understanding as neither of them chose it. Now that all the choices had been made, the game was also nearing its end. In the game, those inexplicable emotions were still lingering in their minds. Izue was still smug, while the Dharma Supreme was forcefully restraining his thoughts. Both of them were eagerly waiting for that strange extraterrestrial demon to announce the final result. What kind of results would there be and what benefits would there be? Have both of you made your choices? The extraterrestrial demon's voice was like a cat seeing two rats that had swallowed rat poison, full of cruelty. I've made my choices. The Dharma Supreme frowned, looking at the shining choices in front of him. He said, I completely don't feel that there's any meaning in making such a choice. What a boring game. Is it really that boring? In this illusion, as long as you select any choice, you will be able to get the corresponding feeling. That strange person chuckled coldly. Your cultivation is relatively higher, so by right the feeling should be stronger. But now this feeling doesn't have much effect on you. It's because you are in a high position now and can get whatever you want. You have a deep understanding of the feeling so you can temporarily suppress it. But don't worry. You will have a deeper understanding soon. The human heart is limited. The more you suppress it, the stronger the rebound will be. The strange person laughed strangely. Izue said, Is the game done now? Can the final result be revealed? The extraterrestrial demon chuckled and said, Done? How can it be done? This is just the beginning. Just the beginning? Both the Dharma Supreme and Yizue were stunned. Now wait a moment. I'll test this one first. That strange person's eyes turned and he said to the Dharma Supreme. The Dharma Supreme remained silent, but deep in his heart, he was contemplating. Although this illusion was ingenious, it was still a little lacking in terms of truly trapping him. If he really wanted to leave, he was confident that he could leave at any time. Let's see what kind of tricks this guy has up his sleeve. The next moment, the Dharma Supreme keenly discovered that the surrounding sounds had also disappeared without a trace. Naturally, the sound wouldn't disappear for no reason. This guy must have used some kind of secret technique to block his hearing. The Dharma Supreme smiled indifferently, not taking it to heart. He simply sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to rest. This guy was still very wary of him. I can't even get close to him now. Now the game has officially begun. That strange man said to Yizue, Little Yi, you have chosen. The first choice is I, the unique and righteous? Not bad, not bad. A very good choice. Yizue snorted, feeling slightly impatient. She was clearly at the peak of her success, yet this fellow was being so naggy and annoying. Unexpectedly, the surrounding black demonic aura suddenly fluctuated and Yizue discovered that he couldn't move his body at all. Moreover, he had a clear and subtle feeling that his life would immediately disappear if he made even the slightest move. This was the feeling of being infinitely close to death, and it was so clear. Yizue instantly panicked. He couldn't even stand properly, his legs trembling. Focus all of your attention. Now you have to do exactly as I say. If you make even the slightest mistake or pause for too long, you will die. You will die miserably. The strange man said in a gloomy voice. You have chosen the option. Now go ahead. Now, if you immediately abandon one choice, I will allow you to keep 8 choices. If you don't, you will die immediately. Choose. Yizue was suddenly stunned. His choice was I, the unique and righteous, immortality, beautiful wife and concubines. Family, glory, wealth, invincibility, life and death, brothers, all the people in the world, and the ability to live as a couple. He really wasn't willing to abandon any of these. Just as he was hesitating, he felt his head suddenly constricting, giving off a piercing pain. That strange man outside was counting. Every time you choose, I will only give you the time to count to 10. If you don't make your choice when the time is up, you can go to hell. 1, 2, 3. Yizue was sweating profusely. He didn't expect that the choices in this game would actually kill him. What a scam. When he heard that the number of strange men had reached 5, Yizue hurriedly shouted, I choose to abandon all the people in the world. The people in the world didn't seem to have much to do with him. The counting of strange men stopped immediately. Yizue only felt that his head had instantly become relaxed after he made his choice. Then he saw the 4 words all the people in the world, in front of him suddenly dim. In the next instant, it had already disappeared without a trace. And he was completely unaware that the demonic aura in his heart had also improved by another level in that instant. An intense and bone-chilling pleasure arose spontaneously, making him feel as if he was floating in the air. Such pleasure instantly washed away the displeasure from earlier. There are still 8 choices. Now abandon one more. Those who don't choose by then die. That strange man's voice rang out as if urging him to do so. 1, 2, 3. Glory, wealth, and status. This time Yizue didn't even wait for the number to reach 4 before he made his choice. There are still 7 choices. Abandon one more. Remove I, the unique and righteous. Yizue panted and asked, how many choices can we keep in the end? The game isn't over yet. Everything is unknown. There are still 2 choices. Abandon one more. Remove brothers of life and death. There are still 5 choices. Remove invincible. There are still 4 choices. Remove. Yizue was conflicted. 4 choices. There were still beautiful wives and concubines, ability to live as a couple, immortality and family clans. For 5. The strange man had already finished counting this time. Yizue's head was in so much pain that it felt as if it was about to explode. His eyes were already in so much pain that they were hazy, and there were faint traces of tears flowing out. He hugged his head and shouted, remove beautiful wives and concubines. Remove them. The headache stopped abruptly once again. The strange man chuckled coldly. Not bad, not bad. There are still 3 choices. Continue to choose. The headache started again. This time Yizue made his choice extremely quickly. Remove ability to live as a couple. He had already lost his beautiful wives and concubines. What was the point of keeping this? There were only 2 choices left. He could keep both of them, right? Reality was the cruelest. This kind of choice was practically a kind of torture. Because in this illusion he already had everything. It was human nature to not want to lose what one had. Now that he had to give up one choice after another, it was as if he had worked hard for a lifetime only to have no choice but to give up one choice after another. This kind of feeling was as if he was cutting flesh from his own body while he was still alive. It was incomparably painful. There are still 2 choices. Immortality, and the family clan. Continue to choose. The strange man's laughter was like an owl's. 3. 7. Yizue cried out in pain, prostrating on the ground. Tears and snot flowed down his face. He was in an extremely sorry state and his consciousness had already become blurry. Immortality was the only great benefit that he kept for himself. But how could he abandon his biological parents? How could he sacrifice them? How should he choose? But, if he didn't choose, he would die. He would die miserably. He was already in so much pain now. Was he going to die miserably later as well? It was only at this point that he truly felt the cruelty of the simple choice game. The strange man's voice rang coldly like a soul-pressing bell. Yizue felt that his brain had already reached its limit and would explode in the next moment. His brain was splattered and he died miserably. The strange man was about to shout 10, when Yizue had already shouted desperately, remove immortality. Ah! He finally cried out in pain. Have you chosen your family clan? You're quite filial. Originally, if you had chosen immortality, it would have saved you a lot of trouble. Now it's time for the additional choice, the last choice. The strange man actually sighed and said, the last choice is your family clan. You have to remove it. Because in this choice you didn't choose your own life. But you do exist. Therefore you still have to make one last choice. Are you going to sacrifice yourself or are you going to sacrifice your parents, your closest kin? The 10 count starts now. 1, 2. This time the counting was obviously slower than before. But at this moment Yizue was completely stunned. He actually still had to choose. There was clearly only one choice left and he actually had to abandon it? Between his own parents and himself, how was he going to choose? Yizue howled in agony. If I die I'll have nothing left. But how can I abandon my parents? Thinking of his father's stern face and his earnest teachings, thinking of his mother's white hair and gentle gaze, Yizue suddenly had the urge to commit suicide. How long had it been since he had a good chat with his mother? And how long had it been since he had a good heart-to-heart talk with his father? The 2 of them created him. Could it be that he actually had to sacrifice them in exchange for his own survival at this juncture? In this illusion, no matter what he lost, it all felt completely real. Yizue had already gone through 8 choices in a row. His heart was already riddled with holes. Suddenly he gritted his teeth and glared. His gaze was cruel and selfish. Occasionally, his face would be filled with admiration as he murmured, Father? Mother? The 2 expressions alternated back and forth. In between his brows, a ball of black aura suddenly gathered and dissipated. His heart meridian was suddenly filled with demonic aura and suddenly dissipated without a trace. Right now, it had already reached the most critical juncture. Outside, that strange man's expression became unusually solemn. Looking at Yizue, his hands were continuously forming complicated seals, producing endless demonic aura and accelerating the erosion of Yizue. As long as Yizue chose himself in the end, he would be completely selfish. Under the influence of such dense demonic aura, his demonic nature would completely erupt and transform into the most complete demonic heart, which would then erupt with the demonic origin. The strange man believed that Yizue would definitely make the right choice. Chapter 1571. Yizue's expression became even more pained. Beads of sweat continuously formed on his forehead and fell to the ground with a thud. The ground was already wet. He didn't even notice that he had long exceeded the 10-count time limit. He was just completely immersed in this choice. If I don't choose, I will die. If I choose father and mother, I will still die. But if I choose myself, father and mother will die. At this moment, Yizue was muttering like a maniac. His gaze became more and more frenzied and his expression more and more intense. That strange man stared intently, a smug smile slowly appearing at the corners of his lips. It's about time. He had seen quite a number of people before, and there was no lack of people with high cultivation. But in the end, without exception, they all chose to be selfish and chose himself. This little one was a cruel and vicious pugilist who killed without batting an eyelid. There would definitely be no accidents as to how he would choose in the final round. He would definitely make the correct choice. At this thought, that strange man's tongue unconsciously hung out and greedily licked his lips. As long as this little one made the choice, the heavenly demon's origin would be formed and he would immediately swallow half of it to make up for the damage to his demonic soul. Although this little one's strength was weak, he could at least make up for 1% of it, right? As long as he continued like this, there would come a day when he would be able to fully recover and even improve. Because in this world, no one could stop him and no one could compete with him for resources. Although this was a garbage dump, he could change qualitatively due to quantity and improve infinitely. When that time came, he would be able to go wherever he wanted to go. At this thought, he accelerated the stimulation of Yizue's soul. Although this action required him to use his origin energy, as long as he succeeded, the benefits would be considerable. This was the only way for the heavenly demons to strengthen themselves since time immemorial. It was also the strongest method. Suddenly Yizue raised his head abruptly. Blood spurted out of his 7 orifices at the same time. He roared into the sky. Ah! A cruel smugness appeared in the strange man's eyes. He knew that Yizue had already made his final choice. Moreover, the space between Yizue's brows was already filled with black aura. Obviously he had correctly chosen himself. Otherwise there wouldn't be any signs of black aura gathering. Humans were indeed selfish. The strange man thought mockingly. His mood relaxed, he removed the seal on his spirit and was about to move forward. However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The black aura between Yizue's brows dissipated abruptly. Almost in the blink of an eye, it completely dissipated and disappeared without a trace. The strange man was taken aback. Before he could realize what was going on, Yizue had already bellowed, "My parents cannot die. I can't die, I can't die. You can't die no matter what." He roared with all his strength, "I'll die, I'll die. I'll die, I'll die." Ah! The demonic chi in his heart veins and between his eyebrows receded like a tide. The strange man cried out in shock. He felt that his demonic soul had been hit hard by the demonic chi that had suddenly chosen to retreat. He had just relaxed his mind, but now, something unexpected had happened. He had just removed the seal on his divine soul and was instantly hit. In a trance he suffered a great backlash. His vision turned black and a gurgling sound came from his throat. A mouthful of black blood came out. Fucking hell. How could this be? How could this be? The eccentric was furious. This was definitely not the result that the strange man had hoped for. Oh! Yizue roared. The moment he made his final choice, the surrounding demonic chi became chaotic. The strange man had suddenly suffered a backlash, and the demonic formation had turned from stable to chaotic. Yizue's mind suddenly regained clarity, and there was only one thing in his mind: I want to go back and see my parents. He suddenly leaped to his feet and shouted, "Father! Mother!" He spread his legs and ran away. In an instant he actually broke out of the encirclement of the demonic chi and dashed out of the dense forest at lightning speed. Although his mind was in a mess, he had already run away without a trace. The cooked duck had actually flown away. The duck that had clearly been placed on the table and was about to enter his mouth suddenly came back to life and flew away? The strange man was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Oh, not almost, but he was already vomiting blood. His eyes were filled with inconceivable shock, as well as incredulity that was so intense that it almost solidified. He flew into a rage out of humiliation. Fucking hell, what kind of shitty thing was this? Not only had his plan failed, he had even suffered an inexplicable backlash. In that instant, he couldn't stop the other party from leaving at all and could only watch helplessly as the demonic formation failed and the little one flew away. What the fuck was this? How did this happen? Was this little one still a fledgling demon? This was an unexpected turn of events. This little one actually ran away. And he even had to stay here and vomit blood. Fuck. Fuck. The strange man felt as if his intestines had been twisted into 70 or 80 pieces. Finally, he couldn't help but spit out the most classic curse since time immemorial. Could it be that I've actually seen a ghost today? I was clearly infinitely close to success. Otherwise, I wouldn't have relaxed my mental control and prepared to accept the results, only to unexpectedly suffer from a backlash. The strange man scratched his head, looking depressed. But what the fuck is going on? If it had been someone else, for example, the kind who had always been chivalrous and righteous. If this kind of demonic formation failed, then so be it. There was nothing to say about it. Their natures naturally countered each other, so it was rare for it to succeed. But who was this Yizue? He was a fledgling demon who cultivated the heavenly demonic art. Could it be that those who practiced demonic arts in this heaven's continent were actually good people? If not, why did it fail? It was really incomprehensible, unreasonable, and unbelievable. Also, not only did the demonic heart transformation ritual fail, he could even break through the demonic formation and run away on his own, with just that little bit of cultivation. How was this possible? This heavenly demon strange man felt that his thoughts weren't enough. There were too many impossibilities. Even if they did happen. If not for the fact that Yizue's cultivation was really insignificant, the strange man would even suspect that Yizue was actually the incarnation of some super heavenly demon playing games with him here. This is really fucking amazing. He muttered to himself. This one here can't also be that kind of person, right? After thinking for a while, he still decided to regulate his breathing first. If this also causes a backlash once, no way. This time, I must wait until I've absorbed the origin energy before I release the mental seal. If it fails again, then there's really no justice in this world. After the heavenly demon strange man regulated his breathing for a while and recovered slightly, he came to the Dharma Supreme with a very cautious attitude. To be honest, the Dharma Supreme was definitely not the best choice. Yes, the level of the Dharma Supreme's demonic power was much higher than Yizue's. If he activated his demonic origin, the effect would definitely be much greater than Yizue's. However, the Dharma Supreme's strength was also much higher than Yizue's. Therefore, the potential danger was naturally much greater than Yizue's. However, the Dharma Supreme was already the heavenly demon strange man's last hope, especially at this moment after the Aunt Yizue's unexpected counterattack. The heavenly demon strange man's actual strength could be said to be invincible in this world. Usually, it was not much different from playing with the Dharma Supreme. However, the injuries on his body had already exceeded the limits of what an ordinary person could endure. To put it bluntly, his life could be in danger at any moment. If he couldn't get support from the heavenly demon's origin energy, then he could only wait for death in this heavily injured place. The Dharma Supreme had already been waiting for quite some time. Due to the demonic fog, he couldn't hear any movement on the other side and didn't know how Yizue was doing at the moment. Although the two sides were very close to each other, he was completely in the dark. This was the characteristic of the higher-level heavenly demon demonic power. Even if the heavenly demon strange man's life was in danger and could even die at any time, the heavenly demon's special ability he was using could still completely block the Dharma Supreme's senses. The temporary relative difference in reality couldn't exceed the absolute difference in instincts. The Dharma Supreme's determination was not something Yizue could compare to. He didn't care what would happen to Yizue, he only persisted in his own choice. Until the last step. When he heard the heavenly demon strange man's voice again, the Dharma Supreme opened his eyes slightly. After listening to the rules of the game, the Dharma Supreme's expression changed slightly. This new rule of the game seemed to be within his expectations, but also beyond his expectations. However, the Dharma Supreme still accepted this test calmly. The first to be eliminated, unsurprisingly, was his beautiful wife and concubines. Beautiful wife and concubines are at most a pastime in life. Women are just playthings, pure playthings. If one blocks the other pleasures of life because of women, then one is just a fool. This was the reason for the Dharma Supreme's choice. When he chose to abandon them, he didn't even feel the slightest bit of pain. He made his choice cleanly and neatly. For the second, he gave up on all living beings in the world. For the third, he gave up on commanding the world. From the fourth, the Dharma Supreme finally started to struggle and suffer, just like Yizue. Because what was left was a strong body, invincible in the world, immortality, supremacy, parents and family, brothers of life and death. No matter which one it was, he didn't want to give it up. The pain that the Dharma Supreme suffered was not inferior to Yizue's. Although his cultivation and temperament couldn't be compared to Yizue's, this game's punishment was in the illusory realm of the Great Array and targeted his soul and spirit, not his cultivation level. If not for this, with the heavenly demon Strange Man's current strength, he would have to pay a price to inflict such pain on the Dharma Supreme. Although endless pain was on him, the Dharma Supreme didn't even groan in pain. Even though his mind felt like it was shattering and thousands of needles were piercing him, he didn't make a single sound. Even his face didn't show any signs of malevolence. He was just in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. As time went on, the pain that the Dharma Supreme suffered became more and more severe, gradually exceeding the limit that Yizue had previously endured. However, the Dharma Supreme was still able to hold on. This was because his endurance benefited from his temperament and cultivation and was incomparable to Yizue's. The greater the pain, the calmer the Dharma Supreme's expression became. After making his choice, if he succeeded, he would have the body of the heavenly demon and be invincible in the world. If he didn't, he would be reduced to ashes. What was success? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.